It's been a while since the last video, so I should probably explain what I've been doing. And it's just college, nothing too serious. Now, as I said in the last several videos, this means there's going to be a lot less time to work on these videos, of course. And if you couldn't tell, many of my videos are now just about other games and that I've played and reviews, and this is really just to save time. Once I get a break from college, there will be another review, so just hang in. Just hang on. But today's video is going to be a little bit different from the other videos so far. It's about Majora's Mask. You know, the video that just kind of got me started into making these. Now, much like the other Zelda games, Majora's Mask consists of a few key areas, such as Clocktown, Woodfall, Snowhead, Great Bay, and Icona Valley. Now recently, I put out a poll asking you guys what areas you guys wanted to see talked about first. And Clocktown won, go figure, it is the first. And there was a comment here that I'll display on screen if I remember to do it, and I agreed with them. And, you know, I just felt like Clocktown would be the best to start with. Now, in the world of Termina, Clocktown is the cultural hub of the region. It's divided into 6 subdivisions. Now, these subdivisions are not named anything crazy, just north, south, east, and west. And the laundry pool and the astral observatory farther out. Now, for the next, 5-10 minutes, I'll be talking about each of these subdivisions and noting any observations and cool things I could find. So I think it's best to where we should start at, just a little bit farther back than Clocktown, in this weird area that may or may not be Hyrule. Before you're actually in Termina and the clock tower, you're in this really odd area, which is sort of like the Lost Woods. Then you're inside a tree, which is most definitely a tree, and then you're under the clock tower and in the clock town. Before we move along, is there anything we can pull from these 3 areas? The Lost Woods, as I said in the original Majora's Mask video, looks a lot like the beta from Ocarina of Time. And what I find really odd about this area is that you can already find a Keaton bush here, which is something that's always confused me as a kid, since there's no way you can even talk to the Keaton here, because you won't be getting the Keaton mask till a lot later. The level design here is also really cool, I think. You can tell there wasn't a lot of thought put into this place, since you'll only be here once, and it kind of does show. I found this one slope that you can walk up, but you'll slide down. Besides the out-of-place Keaton bushes in the slope, there isn't much more that I found all that interesting. It would be nice after you beat the game you could come back here, and maybe mess around and just mess around in this alternate universe. Now, it would be really cool if, following one of my previous videos, if Nintendo adapted lock-on technology for Ocarina of Time in Majora's Mask, so you could play the game in one long, cohesive experience, and possibly find your way back into Hyrule. Wouldn't that just be awesome? Inside the tree is probably the most interesting area so far. There's a small bottomless pond that you cannot sink into, and I noticed in the cutscene when Deku Link he just walked over the water with no issue. So I had to check this out, and I never checked it out before, so I was pretty shocked that this was just this big glaring oversight. You can't even fall in it. You don't even jump over it. There's these really weird starlights from the ceiling that I thought were really interesting to look at. Other than that, the first room is really only there to turn you into a Deku. The next 2 rooms are here to teach you how the Deku Flower works, and you also receive Deku Nuts here. Now this game does do a really good job of teaching you the mechanics, and of course, you find a dead creature in the game, the first one actually, the Deku Butler's son. It's too bad he was probably killed by a Skull Kid. What I want to know is how the hell did the Deku Butler get out of here? Since I feel like this area of the game is still Hyrule, and you'll know why soon. My theory here is that Hyrule is kind of mixed in of Termina, since there are Keaton bushes outside the tree, and also inside the tree, and they're also mostly in Termina. I think the twisting hallway is the Rubicon to say of entering and leaving Hyrule. I think the best way to describe this is in Minecraft, with the naturally spawning nether portals, with the nether seeping out of the portal into the overworld. I feel like that's what this area is to Hyrule. It's like a nether portal in Minecraft compared to the rest of the world. Now once you leave this area, you enter the twisted hallway, and you are under the clock tower. Inside the clock tower, it's pretty barren. A door will close behind you when this is now the point of no return. You see the mechanics of the tower, and there's a few cogs lying around, and there's a little underwater stream that powers the clock. And other than the Happy Mask salesman teleporting in, there isn't much left in this pre-section of the game. Outside of the clock tower doors awaits a whole new world. Clocktown, as I said, is the cultural center of Termina. Now, I may say this, and you may think, well, it looks pretty barren and unpopulated, to which you're correct. And we'll get to that later, though. Clocktown has 5 areas in it, as I said earlier, but technically there's 3 different phases for each of the 6. If you want to get into the real nitty-gritty of this, I'll explain. In this video, I'll be looking at each of the subdivisions on each of the different days, as well as the night version. Now, I'm not doing all 3 nights, but I'll be looking at differences in each subdivision each day, and the same for the days to an extent. You'll get it. For Clocktown, I'll be including a map, and it'll be clear where I'm talking about. I think it's best so we look at South Clocktown, Day 1. South Clocktown is the first area in the game where you are besides the pregame area. And it seems like just some pretty normal stuff. There's a little carnival being built, as well as a little tower. There is also a yellow Deku flower and a dog running around the area. There's an owl statue and a small pond. South Clocktown is how you get to any other area in Clocktown, besides one other place. You can also enter the laundry pool here. The laundry pool doesn't have much. There's a spare ferry here, and when you ring the bell, Cafe will come out and see what's up. There's also a frog here that will come back into the game later. The rest of South Clocktown is pretty basic. The exit of Clocktown here leads to Woodfall, and that'll be in our next episode. You can also enter the summit of the clock tower on night 3. I think South Clocktown is pretty boring, honestly. I think this may be the most boring area of Clocktown in general. There isn't much going on here, but at least you can get to any other area pretty quickly. I see South Clocktown as a town square since it's in the center, and it makes up the entire south side and the center of town. It's really like center square and South Clocktown. I feel like it should be called center square, but they already had the other 3 cardinal directions, so they might as well just include south. Also, since this is a town, you'd expect to see some type of apartment or homes. And you don't see that in this area, but it has something similar in the next area, and there's some more stuff to do in the next area in the town. East Clocktown is more of a tourist area, I think. There's a few mini games you can play in. There's a hotel for tourists, and out of all the places in the town, this is probably where the tourists will reside, since there's a hotel. And mini games, and a milk bar. The mayor's office is also here, where you can learn that the town is usually much more populated, but since the moon is about to crash into town, it's pretty barren. From East Clocktown, you can also enter the observatory, which is one of my favorite areas in the game. There's a group of kids running around the town, and when you play hide and seek with them, they'll give you a code to enter the tunnels beneath Romani Field into the observatory. If you want to know more, check out the review I did a few months ago. You also must remember, to a first-time player, this is the first time they're looking outside into this new world, and it's pretty limited. The view is not that great. For some odd reason, there's dudes on top of pillars, and he's also in a bush. These people are not here when you actually go outside, so I don't know what to make of this. Maybe it's just placeholders. I'm not sure. I've never really heard this brought up anywhere else. I'll look into it for the next episode. In 4 months, Majora's Mask and fun facts. See you guys next week. No, I'm just kidding. Back in East Clocktown, the minigames are pretty subpar. There's a bomb gallery, which the minigames change based on the day, and they all involve explosives. The other minigames are the treasure hunt, which I hate, and the shooting gallery, which can get you a bigger quiver. The hotel here seems like an okay place to stay in. I'd probably stay here. There is a monster in the toilet. However, it doesn't seem like the rooms have their own toilet, so you're kind of stuck with the monster toilet. Also, there is no door in this bathroom, and there's no sink. So on second thought, I probably wouldn't stay here if I needed to use the bathroom. I'd rather go outside by the creek, also known as the laundry pool. In East Clocktown, that's really it. I think it's best we move on to North Clocktown now. North Clocktown is the smallest subdivision of Clocktown. There's a balloon you can shoot, a slide, a great fairy fountain, and even a Deku Scrub minigame. There's a cool event that will happen on night 1, but we'll talk about that when our nighttime differences start. When spoiler alert, there's not really many, so it's really only that. The great fairy here can be reassembled by the spare fairy in the laundry pool, and she'll give you magic powers. Overall, North Clocktown is very green and fun to be in. This has always been my favorite of the series of the places of Clocktown. I always thought it was very unique and it felt like a public park. Tingle is also here, someone who I actually never mentioned in my visual review of the game. I'm kind of using this video as like a rehash because I feel like my first review was so piss poor, so this is making up for how bad it was. I digress. As I mentioned the balloon earlier, when you shoot this, you trigger the first part of the main quest. When you see a kid attempting to burst a balloon and what seems to be spitballs, but if you shoot at it, it'll pop and the kid will want you to play hide and seek after you just get blah, 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 blah. I watch your review. Our last spot is in West Clocktown, and I feel like you could describe this as the market area or a business side of town, or maybe even a financial district since there is a bank here. There's a few shops here, like the Curiosity Shop, the Bomb Shop, the Swordsman School, the Lottery, the Post Office, and the Trading Post. This is where really all the business side of things in town are located. And I did mention there is a bank here that also breaks the flow of time, and it doesn't really make much sense how it works. Maybe another day I'll do a video about how the bank can break time and space-time. And West Clocktown's layout is also really unique, I think. Shaped like a crescent, fitting with the moon. And it's on a slope downward. I've always really liked this layout, and it feels really lived in. Since the subdivisions I've talked about, I think it's time to categorize them based on their purpose in the town. So, South Clocktown is clearly the town square, or center square, whatever you want to call it. North Clocktown is the park side of town. West Clocktown is the market, and east is a tourist spot. Each part of town serves its own purpose, much like a real town. And I really do enjoy walking throughout the Clocktown. And it would have been nice if Hyrule Castletown was like this in Ocarina of Time. Compared to Hyrule, Clocktown feels like an actual town, and not just a lifeless area. My other issue of Hyrule Castletown is that it feels really fake. Now, the game does overlay like an image onto the geometry. Now, this isn't a bad thing. I'm not complaining about this. They needed to do this to save game space for other things, but it still takes away from the experience and it feels really fake. Now that the basic overview of Clocktown is finished, I think it's best we start talking about time-specific events and differences between days that I want to talk about. We'll be talking about all of them. These are the ones I want to talk about. So I want to talk about the robbery on night 1 in North Clocktown. So Sakuran the thief is waiting behind a tree. This is at night 1, North Clocktown. Picture this. And at midnight, an old woman from the bomb shop is going to be importing bombs into the town. Now Sakuran will rob her, and you can stop him. Now this is the go-to big event I can think of for day 1, but I can also think of some others that include the postman talking to Andrew. There's really not that much stuff going on. I feel like this game gives me an illusion of stuff really happening, but when I really sit down and think about it, there's not much going on. So I know that I just took a big dig on this game, but that's just how it is. But I think one thing of lore we can take from the lady importing bombs into the town, and that really shows us that Clocktown, they don't really export anything. They don't export like anything at all, it seems. If they're importing products into town just to sell, it seems as if they need to be big importers. Their GDP may not be that good. You know, they could be taxing the hell out of its citizens, and that's probably why no one really lives here. But, you know, there's also some more events. Like, the thing I don't really think of it's not really an event that I think it's good enough to really be classified as an event, since it happens no matter what, is learning the Song of Healing. Now, I don't consider it an event because you can only do it once and it doesn't repeat itself, but there's some other things I can, such as the reassembling the Great Fairy, seeing the postman talk to Andrew, and seeing the girls dance in West Clocktown at night. As I said, besides those, there's not really much going on. Day 1 is the most calm out of the 3 days, since shit really hasn't hit the fan yet. The people here just have a really general feeling of unease. Since the moon is a lot closer than usual, that's really why they have a big feeling of unease. You can also find Guru in the laundry pool here at night playing his music box. Now, day 2, however, it really starts to pick up the feelings of dread. Day 2 feels like shit's getting close to the fan. It's not hitting yet, but you can kind of smell it and the fan's blowing it around the room. It's raining. The area in front of the clock tower is getting worked on more. The music is ever so slightly sped up, and you can feel a sense of fear in the townsfolk. Also, some townfolk are missing. They didn't get kidnapped or anything, they're just ditching town. This is probably a hint that being in the crosshairs of the moon is a good idea. Since people are missing, they look up, oh, there's the moon, we better leave. Somewhere in the game, it says that people are retreating to Romani Ranch. But I've never seen anybody there except for the people that live there, being, I believe, Cremia and Romani. So, they must have went to a different Romani Ranch. Maybe they went to Lana Ranch. I don't know. Also, the location of the Lost Fairy had moved to East Clocktown. At night, at least. Now, day 3 is where things actually hit the fan. Shit really does hit the fan here. Almost. It's like maybe 20 feet away. And it's traveling at 21 feet a second. Ooh. The music is sped up a lot. There's these ominous drones in the soundtrack. And the moon's also making noises, and everyone is leaving. The construction is almost complete, and the town is going to be destroyed. So I don't even know why they're working on this construction. It's going to be destroyed in 12 hours anyway. By nighttime, everyone's gone except for the foreman and the guards. The foreman is actually yelling at the moon. You can find people hiding about inside their homes and their shops. You know, they know their life is over, and there's nothing they can do about it. And as the moon's about to fall, you got 5 minutes left, and everyone you met's gonna die. And when you let the moon fall, you see this. You can skip it if you've never seen it, but I'll play it in full. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Nope, this ain't over yet. I gotta talk about some other stuff in this insane town that I noticed while playing. First off, where do people live? Now, there isn't really a lot of housing here. I feel like this town, I mean, I know the swordman lives in his dojo, but I can't think of anybody else. I feel like this is like a state college, PA type town, where not a lot of people live there, but when school's in session, there's a shit ton of people there. And due to the limits on a Nintendo 64, and some pretty clever plot workarounds, it's pretty empty due to the moon falling. I like how they factor that in so they didn't have to put a bunch of people inside of it. Second off, who is going to listen to this kid, this worthless kid, standing in front of the way into the observatory? No adult's going to be challenged by this kid, and I doubt that his secret society is endorsed by the mayor. So they're essentially squatting inside the town's observatory. Speaking of which, I never really talked about this observatory that much. There's this little, like, entranceway. It's kind of cool. It's like an underground secret lair. And you go up and you just see the observatory. And then I already mentioned you can look out the telescope. Third off, why does the clock tower just, like, fall apart on night 3? This makes no sense to me. The marriage takes place outside the town. So what the hell is going on here? This idea here just literally makes no sense to me. I don't understand why it happens, but I thought about it. I cannot think of a reason, so we're moving on. Also, where do the people here eat? Like, where are they eating? There's not really any restaurants here, or better yet, what are they eating? There isn't really there's no real agriculture areas around Termina. Great Bay has fish, and Romani Ranch has milk and eggs, but I don't know about beef. Now, I'm not a dairy farmer, but I had a great friend in high school who was. And he said you can't really use dairy cows for beef, because it's just the way the dairy cows are domesticated. We're not going to be using dairy cows for beef. And since we know that Romani Ranch is a dairy farm, I don't see beef being an export into Clocktown. Speaking of exports, what is even driving the Clocktown economy? I assume they import a lot, as I said earlier, since there's a bomb shop. And in this game, and Ocarina of Time, just some Ocarina of Time lore seeping into this, but the Gorons like bombs, and in this game that's supported by the fact that they like powder kegs. Now those are just some small discrepancies, weird complaints I have with Clocktown. But overall, I really do like this place. It is probably one of my favorite Zelda towns. Clocktown will always be my favorite Zelda town. I think it's probably the most like lived in and interesting. Not besides, it is. I think Kakariko from Ocarina of Time is a runner-up. Now, before you grill me in the comments for saying, oh, something in Twilight Princess was better, I've never played Twilight Princess. I've never played Wind Waker. The only Zelda games I've actually completed, and it's going to shock you guys, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Zelda 1, Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, and that's it. So, just keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Me. Welcome back to this episode of Majora's Mask Deep Dives. Now, since the first episode of this did so well, really well for this channel, actually, I was very surprised. I'd like to thank everybody for watching that. Now, I might as well do a second episode. And what else better to do to continue with? Nothing else is better than this. This is the best idea I had, and it really makes the most sense. Drum roll, please. I believe I should be putting in that drum roll. Drum roll again. Give me a third. Hyrule Field. This is the second area of the game, clearly, since this is episode 2 of Majora's Mask Deep Dives. Now, Hyrule Field is it's very different, actually, from its predecessor, Hyrule Field. For one, Hyrule Field has a lot more going on inside of it. It has 4 distinct regions for each of the 4 areas, and it's a lot smaller. Unlike Hyrule Field, Hyrule Field has many grottos, enemies, and just small, cool stuff that makes it feel lived in. I think for this episode, we're going to cover everything just about Hyrule Field. I really wanted to do Milk Road and Romani Ranch, but I think that will do better as its own video. I think to start, we should discuss how to even get into Hyrule Field. The guards are blocking the exits to the field, and you need a sword to leave. But once you're out, depending on what exit you leave from Clocktown, you'll get a different feeling of the field. Now, typically, I always leave out the south exit to the southern swamp. The general layout of the field is very straightforward. It's divided up into 4 directions, much like Clocktown is. The 4 areas here are for the 4 regions of Termina. These are the southern swamp, Snowhead, Great Bay, and Icona Valley. Each of these areas has vastly different themes and designs, and these themes are they round the outside of the field. They're at the perimeter. Now, each of these areas include different enemies as well. The southern swamp has the Guais and Dekus. To the north, Snowhead having the Dongos and these little snowmen things at night. To the west, Great Bay having levers. And to the east, towards Icona, featuring bomb shoes. The non-themed area of Hyrule Field isn't safe either. The enemies here are called choo-choos. These can drop specific items, like in this case, hearts and potions. As for the best way to travel around Hyrule Field, I feel that using the Goron mask is the best way to do this. Since magic potions are all over the place here in the bushes, you just will not slow down, and this is also a great way I found to stock up on items after a time reset. As for trivia about Hyrule Field, I couldn't find much. What I did, however, was an explanation for the dancing men that we talked about in the last episode of this series. In this post from about 12 years ago in Game FAQs, this guy explains it pretty well. Now for a real explanation. These men mark the holes in Hyrule Field. That's really about it, honestly. There isn't much when it comes to these guys, and it may have honestly been a developer oversight. I believe somewhere I read that it's a placeholder, but in case you're wondering what you get from these grottos, in one of them it's 20 rupees, and the others it's bomb shoes. That's it. Now, as I was playing, I wrote up a bunch of notes of things that I found curious, so I might as well start with that. The first thing I want to get out of the way is the dancing ghost, Camaro, in the Snowhead region of Termina. He can be found on one of the mushrooms, one of the mushroom things at night. If you play the Song of Healing, it'll teach you the dancing song with the mask, and he'll also give you the mask. This mask can get you a heart piece later on in the game, inside Clocktown at night. Also, when I was here, looking around waiting for Camaro to show up, I started to get really bored of myself. And I did something that I've never done before in this game, and I started stargazing. And, I was hoping maybe I could find some consolation. But, I kind of found Drago, but it's also a triangle, so it really could be anything. I'm really pulling for this one. But as I was doing this, I noticed something even more crazier that I never noticed before. You may be thinking, geez, this must be something really big if he's making it so suspenseful. And it is pretty suspenseful. You won't believe this. Why does a clock tower have a spotlight? The better question is, how does a clock tower have a spotlight? I mean, look at this tower. Look at it. Do you see a way for a massive spotlight to blast out of it? I don't. And I don't see any way this is possible. The ball on top is completely solid. So how the hell is there a spotlight blasting out of it? I see absolutely no reason for this. I don't know how it works. I just don't know. I don't know. I even tried checking some old forum posts from decades ago. And by decades, I mean not even 2 decades ago. And I can't find anyone questioning this. How has the Majora's Mask community looked over this very odd, extremely odd spotlight? Also, I'd like to add that the spotlight itself is also off-centered. How? This is such an odd game. I also like how from each of the areas you can see the temples. Sort of. You can't see the Snowhead Temple, but you can see Pinnacle Rock, Woodfall, and some of the stone tower from the field, which I think is really cool. Speaking of Snowhead, the ice blocking the path can get Goron links stuck. This serves no other purpose than being funny. On the opposite side of the map, the swamps have some pretty interesting stuff. There's a chest in the far corner that has 20 rupees, and you can jump over this big log using Goron Link. You also need some magic beans later to get into this one chest. In here, you can also access Milk Road, but we'll talk about that later, of course. There's also a little thing of Skull Kid here, which I will talk about in the next episode since it's sort of related to the plot of Woodfall a lot more. If you go east, you can find the Astral Observatory. There isn't that much really cool about this place, but what I did find here, what I really noticed, I didn't find that there's 3 Hylian oaks here, and there's not really many of these around Termina, and I thought it was really cool. Now, but Southern Swamp has these massive trees, whereas this is like kind of the last aspects of Hyrule you can kind of see here. There's a few in some other places we'll get to, but this is really the last spot of Hyrule you can get in Termina. Over on the west side of the map, there isn't too much to do. There's this little useless pool of water, and there's also a grotto that requires Zora Link to use. Now, something I do think that's pretty cool here is that you can walk into these water fountains. Now, I didn't even know that these were water fountains until trying to I kept looking around thinking, what are those things? Went up to them, started walking through them. And first I walked around them thinking I couldn't walk for this center part. And then on accident, I must have just walked through it. You can probably see that on screen now. It was still just very interesting. That's probably the coolest thing that there is in the Great Bay section of Termina Field. Finally, over in the east, we have Icona Valley, which I think has a very interesting detail that no one really talks about, and that is the Triforce. Now, I have a theory about all this, and it'll be talked about farther into the Icona Valley video in probably a few months. But, I mean, we only see the Triforce here and other Hylian iconology in this extent in Icona Valley. Now, here's my theory. This is theory time. Welcome to Joe's theory. I think Icona Valley is farther out to the Gerudo Desert. I mean, if I were to draw it out on a map, I think it would look like this. You guys can, or maybe, I mean, I've seen other maps of it online. I'll put both of those on screen, but that's pretty much what I think of it. The extent to my theory is that I think Icona is the farthest outreach Hyrule ever had. And maybe the wormhole entering the Twin Mill battle was the portal to get to place. Now, we don't really have a lot to work with here, but maybe I could formulate a better theory and write it out during the Icona Valley video. So, with all the main regions out of the way, I think we should talk about the nighttime differences here. Now, the only big difference here is that there are different enemies at night. Other than that, the field's pretty barren. Now that we finished talking about Termina Field and all the cool stuff I could find, how does this compare to Hyrule Field? Welcome to Hyrule Field, the main field of Ocarina of Time, one of the greatest games ever made. Now, what can I say about Hyrule Field? Well, for one, I do like the colors of Hyrule Field a lot more, and the music I'm a lot more nostalgic for. Other than that, Termina Field feels a lot more lively and a lot more real. Hyrule Field is way too big for what it is, and in the game, it takes Link an entire day just to travel across it. So, you gotta put that into context. The one thing about Hyrule Field that it does better than Termina Field is that the fact when you first enter it, all you've known so far is this very small but very liveful Kokiri Forest. Now compared to the Hyrule Field, the Kokiri Forest is an incredibly cramped and small hellhole. I remember when I first saw Hyrule Field when I was about 8 or 9, I was completely stunned. I had never seen something like this in a game before, like besides Minecraft, of course. It completely stunned me. I was blown away. It was just so vast and beautiful. Now, from a gameplay perspective, Termina Field offers a lot more. I think it's more fun to play in, especially using Goron Link. And it's even better that there are ramps around Termina Field for these purposes, and they're littered all around the field. If Hyrule Field had those ramps and it had the Goron mask, hell, that would be one amazing field. And that would even this is a callback to the last episode about the lock-on technology. Another reason for lock-on technology in these games. Honestly, I don't think Hyrule Field and Termina Field should actually be compared. This is a hot take here. One is not inherently better than the other one. Each of these areas may sort of provide the same functionality, but I think they have completely different purposes. Hyrule Field is a massive flex for the Nintendo 64. It's essentially saying, look at us. This is what we can do. We are huge. Hyrule Field also makes Link feel a lot smaller than he really is. In Termina Field, Link is a much bigger part. This also fits in with Link thematically. When we first enter Hyrule Field, he was much less important to the overall story compared to when he first entered Termina Field. Everything Link had essentially done when first entering Hyrule Field was killing a spider. When he first entered Termina Field, he had time traveled, rescued 7 sages, taken back 3 stones, defeated Ganon, overthrew Ganondorf, but he still couldn't beat the Running Man, but most importantly, he had lost his best friend. Termina Field is much like where Termina got its name, Terminal. This is a place where people enter and leave. Termina Field is a place where you enter, get what you need, and then leave. I never really hang around Termina Field. I Goron roll across the entire map, get some rubies and arrows, and then go where I need to go. The fact that I use Termina Field this way sort of made this video really hard to make. In Hyrule Field, I would walk around, fight the enemies perhaps, and walk the trails. Granted, I was doing this when I was like 7 or 8 or 9, and I didn't really have anything better to do. But I can never really see myself just walking around Termina Field. Everything within Termina Field serves a purpose, but the issue is none of these purposes serve recreation. Hyrule Field is like a public park, where Termina Field feels like a Walmart. When I'm going to the public park, I'm going to relax, I'm going to take a walk, and at Walmart, I'm going to get the stuff I need and get the hell out of there. I'm not sure if I can drive that point any deeper. So come along with me as we go to the Southern Swamp. Well, to start, let us look at the south wall of Clock Town. Thank you to this commenter for pointing this out to me. Somehow I forgot to talk about this in the last episode, but on second thought, it probably works a lot better like this. As you can see, the exit of South Clock Town is very tribal, wooden, and green. It's a very nice exit. This also really fits with the theme of the Deku Palace, almost to a T actually. And this is a place we'll visit shortly. In the field, as I talked about in the last episode, we can see the log, which also has a Deku flower beside it. We can also stand on it. Funny enough, I've never done this before. After I left the log to show off the little Skull Kid drawing, I went back to the log, to see where they found him before, Skull Kid. And what I found is that there's actually a secret grotto there. Now in this grotto, there are 2 cows, and I thought this was pretty interesting. So we finally know where more cows are in Termina, and how people get their milk. Very, very cool. Very, very interesting. Amazing. Once you enter this first part of the Southern Swamp, there's some trees in a general forest area. At night, there'll be woofos here, but in the day, there's choo-choos, and during the day, as long as the keys during the day. There's also a fork in the path. One fork is a shooting range, but however, if you keep going straight, you can enter the topic of the episode, the Southern Swamp. When you first enter the swamp, you see the Swamp Tourist Center, something that no other area in this game has, surprisingly enough. It is already heavily implied that tourism is a big, big part of the economy here. This place is actually not optional. You must be a tourist, since you need to take the boat to destroy the giant Octorok here and continue throughout the map. The tourist center, I think, is very interesting as well. Tingle's dad works here, and we'll probably touch on that later. I don't like talking about Tingle. But as well as that, the interior is quite nice. Probably the nicest place in all the Southern Swamp from a livability standpoint, to be honest. I like how you can see into the box where whoever the witch's name is here, Katake or Katome, I don't care. When she's back there, you can see her nose, which I think is very, just so humorous. Lily pad jumpings here to show off how well Deku Link can move, something they absolutely destroyed in the 3DS port of the game. Up the stream, you can find the potion shop that is ran by Kotake and Kume. I hope I'm saying those names right. But the path from the main area to the potion shop feels a lot like the path to the Great Deku Tree, and even down to the Deku Baba place, but not really sure about that. Just kind of saying stuff here. The Lost Woods is here, in spirit at least, same music as well. It's called the Woods of Mystery. However, it's much simpler, and you get around here by following these dumb monkeys around. As for the potion shop itself area, I kind of went in here for about 5 seconds. I also noticed that the Twin Rova music was playing, which is a nice callback. Also, I noticed this waterfall, which is a nice touch. I like how the shop itself is elevated on top of another elevated structure. Also, which kind of ticked me off, is the shop is off-center from the main floor. Not very cool, Nintendo, not cool at all. As for the Woods of Mystery, these are the Lost Woods, but you can't really cheese it. In Ocarina of Time, they had this little thing where you could walk into each path and you could see the fog go away. Well, you can't do that here, so you need to follow the monkey. You also find some enemies here, unlike the Lost Woods, such as the Turtle Rocks, or the Turtlers, whatever they're called, and eventually you'll find whatever the other half of Twin Rova is, and you continue the story. Back onto the main path, we can find some more stuff about, such as the Deku Palace, which is a very unique place in the game. Deku Palace is divided into different parts, believe it or not. There is the East and West Gardens, plus the main palace. The main palace has a huge fire in the middle, and the king is in front of the room, with his amazing butler beside him, his Alfred, to his Batman to say. I enjoy the aesthetic of this room. I also like the prison on the side of the palace. I think it is quite interesting that they have built a prison into the room. Sacrifices seem to be a big part of lifestyle here. The gardens are also guarded 24/7. The bean seller also lives here, funny enough. And I don't think I mentioned this in the Termina Field video, but this is the only bean seller in the entire game. Something that really ticked me off, because I needed them for the Termina Field video. I'm not sure why he's here of all places. You know, maybe he struck a deal with the king since his hole is marked by torches, but you also need to go here for the main quest to get to the upper levels. You know, he could just be a freeloader. The other garden's also pretty boring. It looks cool, but it's pretty boring. Both of the gardens are, honestly, kind of cool looking. However, I don't think they really look that appealing overall. They're nice, but, you know, in the main thing of things, they're not beautiful. As for some trivia for the area, did you know that in French, it's called the Mojo Palace? Right beside the palace is the Deku Shrine, whose gameplay-wise is pretty much the exact same as the race with Dampy in Ocarina of Time. And I think that place is cool, so this is cool. This shrine's pretty interesting, and I'm curious of what they actually use it for. I do love how in the room with the logs, you can use them to get to the lower level. I mean, this really, it gives the area a really nice and compact feel. The Deku Shrine is hands down probably my favorite part of the swamp since it's quite unique. Leaving the shrine, we also have the Spider House. This place is quite cool, and I think it's odd, actually. The inside is a lot bigger than it is on the outside. I do like how the Spider House kind of feels like a shrine or a certain type of cemetery. My only proof that this is a massive cemetery is the ginormous grave in the west room, which I never really paid much attention to until making this video. As I was playing for the game for this video, I thought I was really losing my mind. In the order I filmed, I beat Owadowa before I went to the Spider House. Now in the footage, you can probably see me roaming around the clean swamp and realizing, like, I'm really just walking in circles. And I realized, I was thinking, maybe these big poisonous flowers I couldn't find are tied to the fact that I cleaned the swamp. And it was. You know, maybe these big flowers are powered by poison. I don't know. Either way, I think they're cool and I like them. The area of the temple itself is also pretty interesting, I think. In case you haven't put the pieces together yet, they reused the Death Mountain asset where the temple's located, and I assume this is where all the water comes from in the area. I'm not exactly sure how this works, but I can assume this is some sort of fresh spring. As I said earlier, I do also like the waterfalls around the place. I think they really do add to the atmosphere. The area may be, honestly, out of all the grand scheme of things, my least favorite place in the game. In all honesty, I didn't really like coming back here, and I'm completely fed up with the Dekus, and I don't enjoy playing as Deku Link either. As for Deku Link, it's an interesting concept. It's very limiting, however, I don't enjoy it for that. I like how you can keep the momentum of travel on the lily pads and make it a little bit faster, kind of like bee hopping. As a callback to earlier, this is a great show of the movement mechanics for the Deku. It's probably the only redeeming factor. Also, why can't Deku Link shoot Deku Nuts at people? I'd rather be shooting Deku Nuts than like these little awful bubbles at enemies. Overall, Deku Link is fine. It's a nice mix up to the start of the game and it gives it a much different feel. Since I've made probably 3 or 4 completely dedicated Majora's Mask video so far. I might as well talk about Tingle. I really don't want to do this. Do I have to do this? Do I really have to talk about Tingle? You're serious? Okay. Tingle is this weirdo who thinks he's a fairy. He uses a balloon to make himself fly to draw maps, and this is how he makes money. Tingle, this is probably where he lives. His father works here and takes like incredible shame upon his son, and I would too. I don't blame him. Tingle is one of those is one of the few original assets made for this game, and I don't like him. I don't even really want to talk about him here, since I feel like I'm cannibalizing a future video idea too. But maybe I'll do it again, but better, in a future upload when I'm in 4 months after I've done, really 3 months after I've done Majora's Mask Facts and Fun Trivia, episode 1. And I mean, it's just Tingle. Is there anything else I had to talk about Tingle for? Oh, you want me to mention the game? Okay. This is odd, and I really didn't know this, but Tingle has been in 6 mainline Zelda games. I knew of his Wind Waker appearance, but I never played it, so I can't really say anything about that. Did you know Tingle had his own game? Yep. Tingle's freshly picked Rosy Ruby Land. It's a real mouthful. A mouthful of shit if the game's anything like the character. What do you mean I can't insult Tingle anymore? Okay. IGN gave it a 7, but I think it really deserved an 11. And it seems like the whole game, you just barter for rubies. It doesn't seem that bad at all. Maybe in 3 or 4 months, when I'm locked in to doing Majora's Mask videos for the rest of my life, which I really want to do, I could talk about Tingle's Rupee Land. As for the temple in the area, it's the first in the game and it's not very challenging. Woodfall Temple is the place of worship, it seems, for the Deku. Skull Kid, as Skull Kid does, he also decided to put a curse on the temple, with the boss Owadolwa to poison the water or something like of that lines. As I said, the water in the region is poisoned because of this, and to awaken the temple, you must stand on the Deku emblem and play the Satana of Awakening. There wasn't really much to talk about the temple, in all honesty. I don't really want to talk about the temple, but the guy dressed as Tingle with a pointed object beside me is making me. I'm not supposed to tell them? Okay. Here's some cool stuff I found inside the temple. As for some trivia about the temple, did you know it's called Duskwood Temple in German, and Waterfall Woods Temple in French and Spanish? Pretty cool stuff. I think Duskwood Temple is pretty interesting, and I like this name much more than the Woodfall. The outside look of the temple resembles a ziggurat, and the inside resembles a jungle area. As it stands for a Zelda temple, it's alright. Now granted, I'm not a thrill 3D Zelda connoisseur, I'm more of an Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask connoisseur. As on the fun to play meter, this new scale I've invented, this really just blows anything from Skyward Sword out of the water. I'm not supposed to shit talk, sorry, okay. This is not a full overview of the temple nor a guide. This is just the stuff I looked at and thought this little tour of the place, and I thought this would be cool to talk about in the video. And also, you also gotta remember, I'm playing this with all the items unlocked, of course. The entrance is this wide open room full of trees and some plants at the bottom. It's pretty much the same theme throughout the whole temple. I do also like how in the majority of the rooms the ceilings are leaves. It's obvious the temple has been overgrown for a while now, and I really like this aesthetic. This one room on the second floor I think is pretty cool, and it's directly above the room with the wooden flower. I like this little contraption here too, and I think it's really neat. These poison flowers are also really interesting, and I haven't seen these anywhere else in the game either. As I was getting bored in here, I really kept trying to find out new stuff to do. Like using the Zora mask and freezing the water. As I was replaying, I remember how empty this temple actually is. I like how the mini-boss rooms are all really similar, and they're just really nice, with a little bit of water and trees. The boss chamber is pretty nice as well. It is one of the few rooms without a leaf ceiling. I'll show some rooms from the original playthrough, like the pre-boss room, which I always liked, in this little montage here. Overall, Woodfall in the Southern Swamp is pretty neat. Definitely not my go-to area in the game, but this is neat nonetheless. Snowhead is the second region in the game. Now, it's covered in snow, hence the name. Now to start, I think mentioning the Clocktown exit for this area is a good idea. Now, it would be nice if there was something here in this version of the game. Look at this shit, it's a blue ice doorway. This has to be the dumbest thing I've seen so far in this game. Besides that, the area right before the trip up the mountain, it's pretty cool. I'm certain I talked about this place before, but you got these cool rock mushrooms and there's this icicle you gotta break here. I like the breaking of the icicle since it requires you to use the bow and arrow you obtained in the last dungeon. It's pretty badass in all honesty. The area after this is a trek up the mountain towards the mountain village, which really isn't a village at all, since the entire place is frozen over and there's only one building here and it's not even functioning. The hearth there is frozen, but if you use a fire arrow, it'll come back to life. Also, what I noticed, the chimney will be lit after this, so there's like some really good attention to detail here, and I do really like it. There is also Goron on the small cliff here, who's just chilling around. He'll give you that mask he's wearing later on in your quest if you give him a rock sirloin. The shrine's also here, where you get the Darunia mask, but you need to you need the Lens of Truth to get this. From the mountain village, there are a few places you can go. These are up to the temple, the hot spring, and the Goron Village. First, we will cover the Goron Village, since this is where I went first. On the path to the Goron Village, I struggled to find anything to really write about here. I had to dig deep into things that I want to talk about here, like how the pathway up is pretty basic, at least it looks cool. This is also where you enter the Goron racetrack, which is a really fun minigame, and the payoff is possibly the best upgrade in the entire game, hands down. In the village itself, the floating ice blocks are used in a small quest here to get the Lens of Truth. Gabora will drop his feathers onto this, and you have to land on them. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here. When I first saw this when I was pretty young, I thought this was the coolest thing in the entire game. As it turns out, you weren't actually on his feathers. You were on the invisible ice blocks. So you got trolled essentially. Also, when you come back here after you beat the temple, the ice blocks are completely gone. I assume they melted. I'm not exactly sure why there's not floating blocks of water in the sky, since the ice was already suspended there. I'm not really sure what happened here. They're just gone. You can ask Nintendo yourself, I guess. You can also see the stone tower in the distance, reminding you how close you really are to Icona Valley. Now I think it's cool, to me at least, that the Gorons live so close to Icona Valley. The color palette in the landscape, to an extent in Icona Valley, are quite similar to Death Mountain in Ocarina of Time, so possibly these Gorons immigrated to Snowhead at one point, and they originally lived in Icona. I'm not sure if there's any evidence for this at all in the game. I just think it's a neat little theory. Nonetheless, both of these areas are mountains, so it is a bit of a stretch. Other notable places around here include the figure 8 design of the area. Also, the Goron who's rolling up hills in a snowball. You'll know what I'm talking about. I guess he's like an unstoppable force to say, because he's rolling up a hill in a snowball and nothing's pushing on him. Also, the Goron Shrine is also pretty cool. I hate the baby whining, so I try to be pretty quick in here. But in my super quick look around, just getting footage for the video, I noticed that the rug here acts like ice. And this is because you need to do a Goron roll out of here at one point. Now what I also noticed is that there's a shop here. Yes, there is a shop in this shrine. I don't know why it's not forget about the lore elements, it's cool. Now, I really like this shop. It's on this small cliffside to an underground river, and it really reminds me of a Zelda 64 type photo. It reminds me of classic Zelda in 3D. They also have an assortment of ores on a shelf there, and on the wall there's a big vein of ore. And it's just a super cool part of the game, I think. You can look down and see the water going by. In the camera angle, it's just everything about this shop may honestly be the coolest thing in this entire game I've discovered so far by doing these videos. I can't believe I've never came across this shop before. It's so cool. You guys can see it on the screen. This is awesome. It is definitely one of my top 10 Zelda locations. Next, we can talk about the spring. Now this area in the game does hold a lot of significance, but there isn't really much to say, I think. It does have cool lighting, I can't give it that, but besides that, nothing of note really sticks out to me. I do like the cutscene where you get the mask. I do like how it's kind of like a cemetery. Oh, that's cool and all, but it really does its purpose, and I don't feel like there's a lot of extra stuff here. Now, if you do disagree with me, leave that in the comments. The last main area is the temple. Now, unlike the last deep dive of an episode we had, I'm not going to go into the temple as much as we did. I do want to talk about the road leading up to the temple, the basics of the temple itself, and the boss fight. The road leading up to the temple is pretty cool, I think. It requires the use of the Goron roll, and you do need to be quite adequate at this skill. I failed a few times trying this. The big Goron is also at the foot of the mountain blowing you away, and you need to play the lullaby song for this scenario. He'll fall asleep, letting you pass. I did have a good bit of trouble with this section too, because I'm not that good of Goron rolling. But once I got back into the gist of it, it wasn't that bad. The outside of this temple also looks really cool. I like these spikes of ice shooting out, and the road to the entrance is also really interesting. The temple itself is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of Goron rolling, and you're required to punch out ice blocks in the main room. Personally, I feel like this temple is a slog in the game. And Great Bay, too. We'll get that to the next episode. But if there were more uses of the Goron roll, I would love this temple so much more. I really enjoyed the section of the moon with the Goron mask, and I wish the temple was more like this. Fun, movement-based gameplay. As for the boss, Gaunt, he's alright. Sometimes he can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's really not that difficult if you know what you're doing. The boss uses the Goron mask for the entire time, and it's really unique for a Zelda boss. I can't think of another boss like this in another Zelda game. After you beat the boss, everything changes, and now winter passes on, and it's now springtime. Since it is spring, a lot of the snow is melted, and just forget about some flash floods. Only some of the snow melts. In fact, it seems as if certain areas of this region are still in sub-zero temperatures. There's only spring temperatures in the main areas you're in. Now, this is a complete nitpick, but it used to really disappoint me when I was younger. As mentioned earlier, the ice blocks are melted, and the Mountain Village Smith Shop is open and operational. The Mountain Village is also super springy, if you know what I mean. Goron City is no longer as frozen over, and you can see the rock ground. Now, if you headed back to Snowhead Temple, you'll see that the big Goron is awake and he doesn't remember what happened before. Overall, Snowhead is a cool little area. Stay tuned for the next area. Welcome back to the Majora's Mask Deep Dives. In today's episode, we will be covering Romani Ranch. This area of the game is semi-mandatory. The only requirement here is that you need to acquire Epona again. The average player may ignore the interesting themes within this ranch, and that's why I'm here. Romani Ranch is an incredibly cozy spot within Termina. It reminds me a lot of Hyrule Field. It's a relatively normal ranch, and it's very wide open. There are also several activities to do around the ranch. Before we get into the daily operations of the ranch, we should probably take a look at the Milk Road. The Milk Road is a transitional area into the ranch. There is a Keaton bush here, and on days 1 and 2, there's a rock blocking the path into the ranch. This is a limit put here by the developers, so the player can't acquire Epona too early. They can only acquire him after Snowhead and the Goron race. If I didn't mention in the last episode, after talking to the big Goron, you acquire a license to carry powder kegs. Now the powder keg is a barrel full of gunpowder that makes a massive explosion. Importantly, this allows you to buy powder kegs in Clocktown. Now you can have powder kegs on your person at this moment in the game. The rock in front of Romani Ranch is one of the places you could use a powder keg. If you use it on day 1, you'll be greeted with a much different sight than just from visiting on day 3. On day 1, when you arrive, the ranch is quite lively. There are 2 redheads running around the ranch who you can talk to. These are Romani and Cremia, the taller one being Cremia. Now both of the models were actually using Ocarina at time as well, for those with a keen eye. Romani will recruit you to stop them. That's an alien force. She will also show you what the aliens do. We'll come back to the aliens later in this video. Also around the ranch you can find 2 notable locations. These are the Doggy Racetrack and the Cuckoo Shack. The Doggy Racetrack is pretty self-explanatory. In here, you can bet on dogs and race them. Now, there is a way to somewhat cheat this by using the Mask of Truth. Fun fact, for the longest time it was thought completely impossible for the blue dog to win. But this was proven wrong very recently by speedrunner Falkish. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. I'll link an article in the description if you want to read more about this. In short, it was an incredibly rare occurrence for this to happen. The next area, the Kuko Shack, is ran by a guy named Grog, who is unnamed in Ocarina of Time. Much like in Ocarina of Time, he's pretty depressed. Not about life in general this time around, but it's the fact that he's not going to be able to see his chickens grow up. Now, if you have the Brennan mask from the windmill guy and clock down at night, you can march. Now once you get all the baby chickens lined up right behind you marching, they'll grow up and they'll be happy. Grog will be happy. He'll give you the bunny hood, arguably the best mask in the game. Fun fact about Grog, and I wasn't aware about this at all until I was researching further for this video, it said he committed suicide in Ocarina of Time. And honestly, I do not doubt this. Nintendo has probably retconned this idea. Ocarina of Time was a much darker game in 1999 than it was in 2011. Grog, to me, represents the depression that has overwhelmed Termina. I do feel a little bit of sympathy for Grog's character in both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. He's this depressed stranger who's seemingly aloof from society. At least in Majora's Mask, he does have a happy ending, if you choose to intervene. Back on track with the aliens. The backstory we're given about these aliens is that they arrive 2 days before the carnival and they steal the cows. That's it. Cremia also does not believe in them. I don't know how she doesn't, since I assume this has been happening for a while, at least since she was a child. Or she was probed and forced to forget about them. We can see from their behavior that they teleport onto the ranch, levitate around the barn where the cows are located, and what I also think is interesting, this barn barely has any cows. It barely has any room for cows at all. Probably only about 6, I believe. I feel like the aliens would probably have better luck going to another ranch or a slaughterhouse. To defeat them, you shoot them with the bow. Now they will teleport right back in after you shoot them with the bow. Also, there's a seemingly infinite number of aliens trying to acquire these cows. This milk must be pretty good if these alien invaders are sending, theoretically, millions of soldiers for just a few cows. Their only known motive is also stealing the cows. Once you are finally finished with the aliens, Romani thanks you. You're also allowed to do another side quest. This time, you will be accompanying Cremia into Clocktown. But there's an issue with this quest actually this time, because the Gorman brothers, the rival farmers to the Ranchesters, have blocked off your path. Since they've done this, you have to take a much longer, dangerous route. The Gorman brothers are also following you in Cremia, and then they reveal themselves trying to steal the milk. All you have to do here is spam arrows to get them away. It's not much of a challenge. Once you beat them, you get the Romani mask and can now enter the milk bar in Clocktown. As for the theories pertaining to what are the aliens, there are a few, and most range from those created by the Gorman brothers, or their Gyro spirits, or it's a combination of the two ideas. Now, the in-world explanation, as stated in the game, is that they are pretty much aliens. Now, I will be called out if I don't address the elephant, or in this case, the ace of spades in the room, and this being the Flatwoods Monster. As you can see on screen, these two entities have a very similar design. Clearly, them took some inspiration from the Flatwoods Monster. Funny enough, Japan was seemingly having a sort of alien surge at the time frame this game came out, and many parts of culture were influenced. Japan had a surge of UFO sightings from the years when this game was released. I do not doubt that the image of the Flatwoods Monster was circulating around in some Japanese magazines, such as the one seen here, where you can clearly see the Flatwoods Monster. As for the tale of the Flatwoods Monster, it goes as follows. In the year 1952, in Braxton County, West Virginia, two brothers and a friend were out looking when they saw a streak of light over the property of a local farmer. These two brothers went to the home of Kathleen May. After they met with her, they went out to the site of the appearance. They were also joined by a West Virginia National Guardsman. As they wandered the woods, they got to the top of a hill and saw a bright red light. The guardsman shined a flashlight in the area, and he said he saw a man-like figure with a round red face circled by a pointed hood-like shape. Several other members of the crew also described this hood-like shape, some calling it an ace of spades shape. After this, they ran away and reported it to the sheriff, who came back, looked around, and didn't see much. A journalist went out the next day to investigate and claimed he saw skid marks on the ground, as well as a very gummy deposit. As for the story, it's very interesting, and it's one of my favorite cryptozoological stories out there. I feel like it's a real classic alien monster story. As for what happened, there are a few ideas. One such being a barn owl. Barn owls can have red faces, like in this image on screen. Also, with the shining object in the sky, there were reports of a meteor in that area on the same date. This was also seen from Pennsylvania and Maryland. Chances are it was a meteor, and the kids thought it was an alien, since in the 1950s, aliens were kind of the zeitgeist of the culture. They went into the woods, they encountered a barn owl, and when they saw the barn owl, they panicked, said it was an alien, and they went home to tell the tale. For the glowing red object they said they saw in the woods, I'm not sure what this could have been. They also could have been making it up. As for Romani Ranch, these aliens do cause a lot of trouble for the sisters. Romani will be abducted if you fail to stop the aliens, and she'll be acting very aloof and strange, almost like she has no idea where she is, almost like she was probed, because these are aliens, clearly she was probed. This is also what you'll see if you come here on day 3, for acting all strange. She cannot teach you a Pona song either. Romani Ranch is a very interesting place, and I don't feel like it gets talked about as much as it should. This is also a great spot to speed the moon on night 3. A very touching part of this is at the end, where Cremia is going to let Romani sleep in her bed and drink the Chateau Romani, which is a heavily implied alcoholic drink. Pretty sad when you believe they're gonna all die. They're all gonna be dead. They're gonna be dead in less than 3 hours. The moon's gonna crash right into them, gonna smack them right to the ground, and they'll all be dead. And that's what they believe. And I'd be acting a little weird too if that's what I believed. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Majora's Mask Deep Dive series. This is episode 5 with Great Bay. Now, Great Bay is the 3rd region of Termina, and it's a beach. There's also a sort of mini dungeon here. It's very reminiscent of the Gerudo Fortress in Ocarina of Time, but I will be doing a separate video on that. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and stick around to the end. The Great Bay is a wonderful beach region of Termina. It is the home of the Zoras. They live in an underwater complex, much like in Ocarina of Time. As stated in the last episode, you need a Pona to arrive here. The entrance is blocked off by a gate. Great Bay also has possibly the most technologically advanced thing in the Zelda series I've seen so far. This is the new state-of-the-art water filtration plants, and you'll be seeing that later in this video. As for the Clock Town West entrance, this is also a pretty boring chiseled stone entryway, with a huge seashell on the head of the door. There are also fountains and a pretty well established walkway to the sand at the bottom. This exit is pretty average. There isn't anything that really sticks out and shines in my opinion, but the levers in the sand are pretty cool. As for the inside of Clock Town, the west exit follows pretty much the same template as all the other ones before, with the standard small exit with a colored shell above said exit. Cannot complain there. First entering Great Bay is a whole lot less dramatic than what I remember. For some reason, I remember this area being much wider than what it is here, and a lot brighter as well. This really confused me since when I made the 1 hour long review for this game, I remember it being much more grandiose. Granted, this is an area in the game I never really came back to. It wasn't really interesting until today. The Great Bay Coast isn't at all populated, and there isn't much of a beach town vibe as I remember there being. In short, this is no Isle Delfino. The coast is understandably flat. You can see the temple out in the distance. This is also, which I believe to be, the state-of-the-art water filtration plant, or a power plant depending on who you ask. Other parts on this side of the coast include the Fisherman's Hut, the Spider House, and the Marine Research Lab. The Fisherman's Hut isn't anything to write home about. The fisherman is some weird pervert with a seahorse. This guy is pretty strange. He has a poster of a Gerudo on his wall, or really in this case a pirate on his wall, and he'll give you the seahorse if you take a photo of one of these girls and give it to him. This guy's an all-around pretty strange guy, and this is a theme that's going to come back a lot in this area. To be fair, he is pretty buff, and I bet he can squat 315 with ease. The spider house is a pretty normal crib, despite the fact it's falling apart. I like this place a lot, actually. This is probably what the Skullta house should have been at Ocarina of Time. You know, just like a normal house, and they could have had the Skullta family members scattered around. There are actually a few stall children here, so it's pretty legit, and they do have a pretty legit crib. The Marine Research Lab is this weird elevated laboratory on the water. There's also a bunch of screws laying around the place under the water. No idea why this is here. Maybe it could have been bigger on point and they had to sell off half the lab. I don't know. The guy who works here also seems like some type of pervert, so I want to get too close to him either. The entrance to Pinnacle Rock is also here. Now, this is a real pain in the ass type place to go to find the Zora eggs, something I did talk about in the original review for this game. Looking back on it, this place really reminds me of that one place in Mario Sunshine. I want to say it was Noki Bay. Much like the fishermen, you can also watch seahorses make love, so I guess now you are also a pervert. If you go back to the coast and face right, no, your other right, no, stop. If you go to the Great Bay and face right, then walk forward, as in walking right from the camera, you'll be able to go to what I like to call Great Bay Right. This is actually called the Zora Cape, who need this for like an actual reason. Zora Cape also has a few things to note here. There's these two schmucks who will challenge Zora Link to break pots with his fins. There's also 3 things in this general area that you can do. These being the Waterfall Rapids, Zora's Hall, and the 3DS exclusive waste of time, the Fishing Hole. Waterfall Rapids is this wicked racetrack ran by these 2 beavers who you have to race like 5 times to get a bottle. Pretty sure about that, it's been a while. It's an all-around, like, really cool-looking environment, and I really do enjoy the aesthetic of the place. This place was a real pain in the rear end when I first tried it, but it's much easier nowadays. Zora swimming is an amazing mechanic to begin with, and it's great there are ways to play with it here. I also really liked the way you get here, with Link having to use the hookshot on all these different trees and eventually making it onto the location. It's a fun touch. For some reason, this also reminds me a lot of Mario Sunshines. Zora Hall is also a very cool place within the game. It has this really cool reflection of the water on the walls, which makes this whole place feel very alive. Personally, I do prefer Zora's Domain over Zora's Hall, but Zora Hall feels much more lived in and less regal or worship-like. There isn't a King Zora here either, taking his time moving his big butt. His big bottom, some would say. His fish sticks, even. But you can also find another pervert here who's trying to be a peeping Tom on Zora Link's girlfriend. Ooh, that is not a good sign at all. And actually, when you catch him wearing the Zora Link mask, you can follow him all the way up to the cliff, and he'll be like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing nothing. That wasn't me, dude. And after this, you can actually push him off and he will die, much like how you can blow up Sakharon the Thief. That's a joke, but I knew you guys went along with it. You didn't doubt me. Speaking of Zora Link's wife or girlfriend, she is going through a fish pregnancy, and someone stole her kids. Yikes, that is not good. You could say Zora Link is officially going to be a father. But he is also officially dead. Yeah, that's right. It's a pretty dark road you're living in. Honestly, returning the eggs from the pirate's fortress and all that, which we'll get into in the next episode, is a whole lot of work. So I only ever did it once. Your lady is also standing. She's just kind of standing out in the Zora Hall Bay, cliffside really, and she's just kind of standing there depressed, not doing anything about her predicament. Working hard or hardly working, as I say. Thankfully, we can leave this woman for the turtle. The turtle is also how you get into the dungeon. I mean, water treatment plant, or the Great Bay Waterworks, as some may call it. But before we do that, I want to discuss something we have not talked about in this series so far, and that is the music. Feel the music! The music in the 4 regions of Termina all follow the same theme. You may have not noticed it, but your brain did. Here's some examples. I'm going to be showing you guys small bits of each track interwoven with each other. Sorry if that mock-up didn't sound as great as it could have been, but it's a good proof of concept. There are better videos than I could be making going into detail of how this all works, and I'll be very glad, extremely glad, I'll be beyond glad to link those videos in the description. The Great Bay Waterworks is also something that would fit really well in the Isle Delfino. This place doesn't feel like a temple at all. Besides all the locked doors and the chests and the monsters sprung all around the place. Most puzzles involve plumbing, believe it or not. Turning water valves on and off to change water flows. You can also freeze water. I guess when Link said, actually I'll just let him say it himself.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
I don't think he meant he wanted a job of the Mario Brothers. Great Bay is honestly a god-awful temple. But I do like the concept. There are also parts of this temple that can act as a generator. Like the giant spinning gear, spinning another gear, kind of like a turbine. The halls are also lit up by actual lights and not torches. Looking at this, Hyrule is in the Stone Age, bro. No wonder Termina closed off its walls from the rest of the Zelda universe. They don't want to be with those dumb as rocks Hylians. This is also part of my personal headcanon that Termina is not a dream or some BS pushed by game theory. Link does not know what electrical generators are. As far as we know, Link has never seen anything like this at Hyrule from Ocarina of Time. He has not seen, I don't think he's ever seen a windmill. I don't think he's ever seen a giant power generator. So the fact that this could be in a dream is pushing it. Link is probably extremely confused when he comes in here. He doesn't know what's going on. He's never seen electricity before. Much like the rest of us, we are very confused with how freezing waterfalls works with changing currents. As you can tell, I'm not the biggest fan of this temple. I like it. I like the concept, however. The boss of the temple is also a real eyesore. His name's Gyorg. He's officially a eyesore and a fish. Off the top of my head, I don't really remember how to fight him. When I first fought him, I really think I just mashed buttons. I remember I came dangerously close to dying. You can see that on screen now. I'm using the same footage from the reveal. Great Bay Temple is probably the coolest place I've seen in a Zelda game since it's got electricity and plumbing, and it also probably provides a lot of stuff for Termina. I think it's a cool place. I enjoy Great Bay a lot since it reminds me of like the Great Bay Temple reminds me of a Star Wars-esque, just a strange place. You don't see this type of place often in a Zelda game, and that's why I like it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Majora's Mask Deep Dive series. In today's episode, we will be looking at the Pirate's Fortress within Great Bay. The Pirate's Fortress is essentially a reskin of the Gerudo Fortress from Ocarina of Time. It's a very fun mini dungeon if you would consider it a mini dungeon. This area is also incredibly easy to cheese with the Stone's Mask. The Stone Mask makes this area a complete cakewalk, truly letting us indulge in the wonderful designs of this mini dungeon. I think I'll be taking a slightly different approach to this place as compared to the last video, giving us a more in-depth look at each of the rooms here, sort of like how this series began. I think we should start here with the enemies that are encountered within this place, these being the bees, the Despero, the Shellblade, the Skullfish, the Spikes, and of course, the Gerudo Pirates. The hookshot is also found here, a returning item from Ocarina of Time, but with a much different look. The hookshot here is very comparable to the long shot from Ocarina of Time. With all that said, I think we should look at the neglected parts of the bay, as well as the fortress itself. The other side of the bay is pretty wide open. You can also see the mountains behind the Pirate's Fortress, as well as the giant gate they've installed. There's this whole wall scaling area I avoided in the last episode because I was too lazy to go up there. I also really couldn't remember what was up there, so I decided to go figure it out. The trek up there was much more of a hassle than the reward. First, I had to use the hookshot to get up there, so I did. It's not that hard. Well, then I saw that I needed the magic bean to get up here. And since you don't really use magic beans a whole lot in this game, I had to go back to the southern swamp to grab some. Well, after I did that and I used some water to make it grow, the stupid ass beanstalk pushed me off the ledge. Alright, no big deal, I'll just go back up. So I get back up there, and then I need to use the Scarecrow song. No big deal, right? Well, it was a big deal because I needed to press A a bunch of times, and then every other combination of C I could think of. Well, that was fine until I tried every other combo I've ever used for the Scarecrow song. So then I had to go back to Clocktown, make a new Scarecrow song, and then finally get back to Great Bay. Okay, so I'm back at the top of the cliffside, and I'm playing the song, and I just hookshot it onto the Scarecrow. And there's nothing back there. Like, I should have guessed. Yeah, this was a pretty serious disappointment. Maybe the unicorn fountain's back here. I was so disappointed that I even used a lens of truth to see if anything was hidden. And the only thing that was up here was one single recovery heart. So, to enter the fortress, you need to use Zora Link to break these boards at the bottom. Pretty easy enough to understand. These boards all have huge skull and bones on them. So, clearly to anybody, this just means that there's pirates. So you need to break the second farthest board from the little alcove we were just in, and then you fly in, and you'll jump right out of the cave, and then you'll see all these women on boats. Now these women are the pirates. Yes, female pirates. Much like we just talked about in the last episode. Take a look around at this place, and you realize it's a bit stupid looking. 2 gates? Really? What the hell is inside this place? There better be a ton of rupees or like the keys to Clocktown or something. Nobody needs 2 gates when you can just climb the mountains beside it. Luckily, we have the stone mask so we can just catch a ride on one of the boats that these idiots are just riding around in. These things must be motorized since they don't stop and go at a very solid pace. Ain't nobody even rowing, bro. Great Bay is a very advanced place in Termina. Once hopping on the boat, it turns out that you can't actually brutally murder these girls, like the pirates, inside the base. I decided to sit around the boat for a while before going in. I also decided to go in via the hookshot thing on the wall, because I remember the Zora Link section being a lot longer, but we will go there anyway soon. I noticed that the torches outside of the area were not lit, so I had to wait till nighttime to see if they really did turn on, as one normally does. So, I had some downtime to play with the lens flare on screen. Truly, a very detailed game. So, I finally decided to go inside after messing around outside. I took a really quick look around the place and just immediately attacked a pirate. These assholes are going to have to pay for how they made me find these damn eggs. Ooh. Besides that, it seems like these girls must rely on hookshot for everything. They do around here, since the hookshot pillars are everywhere around this place. Just look at this. There are 4 in like any direction you look. It's really distracting. There is some pretty cool watchtower in the middle of the base. Not sure why it's here, And I don't know why at the edge of the base, to kind of see the non-existent armies of Termina, they decided to run a naval attack on the west end of the base. Speaking of an army, why doesn't Termina decide to militarize to fight these pirates? It seems like Termina already has access to a power plant. You're telling me Clocktown can't muster up a small army? It's not like there's a bomb shop in town and a frickin' swordsmith in the mountains. I think the swordsmith folk and the bomb shop folk should be lobbying to stop the serious threat. Armed pirates just west of Clocktown. These pirates are heavily armed and could slaughter all of Clocktown if they decided to. The 4 guards in Termina are not going to stand a chance against these ladies. Besides that, the pirates' fortress is pretty open. Not open for business, however, since their gates always seem to be closed. Also, you're about to see how these girls just try to impale Link in the chest. Look at this. These people are violent criminals and should be sent back to the valley. But Joseph, this is a parallel dimension. They're not Gerudos, they're their own thing. Really, TV man? Well, look at this. A Gerudo emblem. If they really were not Gerudo, then who the hell are they branding themselves with the logo of the Gerudo? Just what I thought. So, I got kicked out, and well, I might as well do the other entrance on the other little deck area. And it's the end of the Zora Link section, so I might as well show you how you're supposed to enter this area. So you go in, and it's a block moving puzzle first. Easy enough. Somehow I still happen to struggle with this, but I got it pretty quick. There must be magma blocks under the grate here, and then there's a quote-unquote puzzle with the Zora fins. Pretty simple. This opens another grate that brings you up to another place. Now I failed here, and I decided to go back the way I was going before. So I'm back, and I decided to attack some more pirates, then enter the base. The first mini-boss battle was pretty easy. Then I see where they keep the eggs. You do this 4 more times, then it's over. While I was out there, I noticed that there was a puddle on the ground, and it was only right here. Now, I didn't know why it was only right here, but it is. I did the challenge to get some more eggs a few more times, and I found one of these rooms has cannons, and a hookshot as well. There's another pirate fight, and then, it starts getting really repetitive. I walked around in a circle and took care of all the other stuff around the place. I also found a chest with 20 rupees on the roof here, which is pretty nice, but I have no need for rupees anymore, so who really cares? You also have to shoot a bee's nest inside one of the rooms where the captain is sitting. Her room is pretty basic, honestly. There's a couch, which I assume is supposed to be her throne. You'd think that they're pirates, they would have gotten a gold throne by now, but I guess all they can rummage through is couches in the Hyrule Field dump. I entered this place and decided to look around at all the cool stuff that the map designers threw in. Then I noticed something that just solidifies my theory from episode 1, that the pirates are Gerudos, and that Termina is just a faraway land within Hyrule. I think maybe the pirates are like a scouting party compared to the Gerudos in the Gerudo Valley, which would be like the main base. As you can see, there's a huge pirate banner on the wall, but there's also a very small Gerudo logo on the shelf. There was this pretty disgusting stew or something being cooked over this wood stove. I kept trying to see if I can get inside of it and if it could burn me, but I was unable to do such a thing. After this, I decided to go for this doorway I'd yet to see, and it just took me outside. Then I went for this other doorway and looked at the last egg. I also decided to ponder about these huge, giant gates here and visualize where this was in comparison to the outside. So I left the fortress and went to go look outside. I don't know why they don't just keep these gates open all the time. These are some pretty heavy gates, and they seem like a pain to open and close every time you want to send a scouting party out. Plus, if the non-existent army of Termina decide to attack you, these pirates are very well trained in martial arts. So anybody really in this game besides the bosses don't really stand a chance against the pirates. I don't understand how they haven't just taken over Termina yet, because everyone else is a wuss. Either way, that's all I can really gather about the Pirate's Fortress. This was a pretty solid mini dungeon, and I do enjoy the slight connection to the Gerudo. You know, I kind of want to go back to my first review of this game and see what I said about it there. How about we go to the Joe flashback television?
And if you get the Stone Mask earlier, you'll be invisible to pirates, making this game part of the game comically easy. In the footage that I'm playing now, you can just like watch me walk through the Pirate's Fortress, just killing pirates left and right. In the Pirate's Fortress, you need to find 4 of Lulu's eggs, and with these eggs, you return them to the Marine Lab in the area of Great Bay. Also here you can get the hook shot, which is a pretty good item for the rest of the game. It's also required to enter the Great Bay Temple and like some parts of the next temple.
Wow, I only spoke on it for like 30 seconds. That review sucks. Well, that's it for today's episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Majora's Mask Deep Dive series. Woohoo! Yeah! This is episode 8 in this crazy series. In today's episode, we'll be looking at Icona Valley, a very deep and borderline insane area of the game. Now I hope you all enjoy this video and stick around for the end for a real nice surprise. Icona Valley is the eastmost region of Termina. This area, for the most part, is pretty devoid of life. It's a very eerie and dry looking environment. This is also probably the most lore-filled area in the entire game. Icona Valley consists of several different locations, such as the graveyard, the trail up to the canyon, Sakon's hideout, and the castle, which will be covered in the next episode. We also have the crown jewel of this place, in my opinion, the Stone Tower Temple. Some enemies that you'll find here are the real Bombchus and the Nejrons. That's what I'm going to call them, the Nejrons. Now, the real Bombchus are exactly what they are called. They are real Bombchus. Much like we all know what a horse is, I don't think this needs much explanation. Now, the Nejrons are much more interesting. I had completely forgotten about this enemy, and their name pretty much just means Twisted Goron in Japanese. You can really tell this just by looking at them. I think it's a pretty interesting enemy, and this also adds to my old theory from a while ago that I think we could just look at ourselves using the old trusty Joe flashback television. Now, where is that? Oh my, you gotta be kidding me. So, well, forget about that, never mind. It seems I had left it at the old place. Also, welcome to the new studio. After 35 or 36 videos, we have finally got a studio. That's what I'm talking about. Now, moving on, I guess we could just skip this whole Snowhead video flashback. Oh, that must be the moving crew. Oh, hello, thank you. Just bring it in, put it anywhere. It doesn't matter. Alright, now that the moving crew is working on the television, I think we can get back to the connection once they're finished. So let's look at the Clock Town entrance. Well, this sure is a change of look compared to the others. Clearly a lot more effort was put into this than the Snowhead one, for example, with that boring ice exit. Oh wow! Hey, that's a Triforce. I haven't seen that in a while. Man, I just love this area. It's so interesting and so cool to look around. You know, but it's a little hard to look around, however, since these real Bombchus are really being a pain in my ass. These pillars also have a Triforce on their tongue. Not sure what this is supposed to mean. Maybe they think the Triforce tastes good or something. Couldn't tell you. This whole area is really interesting since these pillars lead right into Clock Town. Leads right into the Clock Town entrance. Can you believe that? I think it's safe to say that maybe the people of Icona built Clock Town. I mean, it wouldn't make much sense for the people of Clock Town to put these huge-ass pillars that would lead to a kingdom that is completely destroyed outside of their home. I don't know. Maybe the new settlers of Clocktown found an old military outpost or fort and decided to set up shop there. That makes sense to me, at least. Oh, seems like the TV's installed. That's pretty good. Let's see where he put it. Alright, that's an alright space. I couldn't complain. I didn't do it myself, so beggars can't be choosers. Alright, now I gotta find this TV remote. Where could that thing be? Oh! What in the world? It must be voice activated. Play the Snowhead video. Maybe it's just a fluke. Play video! Okay, that's strange. Well, let me look around. Well, there is a paper underneath my desk I'm seeing right now that says, in quote, television acts like R2-D2 from Star Wars. Oh, great. That means he'll be some, like, prick. Alright. Oh, wait, I didn't see. There's just more. Act like the static is in his voice. Wait, what? Act like the static is his voice. Sorry, I forgot how to read. And I'll take care of the rest. Okay. And then at the bottom there it says, do not read on broadcast. Alright, okay, that's, you can't win them all. Oh, jeez. Well, that's a stupid point. They should have let me know before I was... Okay, whoever's. Alright, let me figure out this television. Forget I said any of that. Television. I understand what you're saying. Play the video. Tower in the distance, reminding you how close you really are to Icona Valley. Now, I think it's cool, to me at least, that the Gorons live so close to Icona Valley. The color palette in the landscape, to an extent in Icona Valley, are quite similar to Death Mountain in Ocarina of Time, so possibly these Gorons immigrated to Snowhead at one point, and they originally lived in Icona. I'm not sure if there's any evidence for this at all in the game. I just think it's a neat little theory. Nonetheless, as you can see, I was pretty smart when I made that video, and I had already connected these true and honest facts. Thank you, television. Yeah, she's doing good. How's your wife? Oh, man, that sucks. Is she keeping the kids? Well, I'm sorry to hear that. At least the weather outside is nice. Alright, not the time. I get it. We all go through the, tough and hard times. Doesn't mean you gotta be such a dick about it. Alright, I'll get on to video. I understand. Well, what else can we pull from the road? Well, there are two places you can go from here. These are the Icona Graveyard and the Icona Canyon. The Poe Collector is also here, and he's a pretty weird character. If you're wearing the Gara mask, he'll make a tree grow, and you can hookshot onto it. He will also disappear once you do this. Speaking of the Poe Collector, you may just assume that these models are the same in Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. Well, at a closer look, they're actually different. The Ocarina of Time Poe Collector is wearing a Triforce on his little chest thing, whereas the Icona Poe Collector isn't. Nice touch to separate the region of Termina from Hyrule. Speaking of a disappearing act, if you put on the Lens of Truth, you can also see the Invisible Soldier, who will give you the Stone Mask. This mask is very helpful in the Pirate's Fortress, the wonderful area we talked about last episode, and I'm not touching on it again. You have to give him a red potion, however, to get the mask, something I'm not going to do for this video. I want to touch on the canyon first, since it's pretty cool. The Icona Canyon is the home of 4 people. These are Matthew Nobles, the scientist, his daughter Pamela, and Sakron the thief. There's also the Poe Collector and Ocarina of Time Returner. There's also the Music Box House, Sakron's hideout, the Secret Shrine, Beneath the Well, the Spirit House, the Spring, the Stone Tower, and the Castle of Icona. Some enemies you'll find here are Octoroks, 3 Deads, Gibdos, Guais, and the Garo. Now, the Garo is the only enemy here with some legitimate lore behind them. The Garo are described as spies from a faraway land whose presence destroyed the kingdom of Icona. These guys are pretty cool, and they don't return again in the Zelda games. In conclusion, as I said, the Garo are cool. You can also get the Garo mask from the Gorman brothers. Maybe there's a connection here They could be descendants of the Garo. Also, the Gorman and Garo, they share some letters there. The frickin' music box house is a frickin' location in this frickin' game. Who wrote this? Who in the world took my script and changed it? Let me look for a signature. Ooh, whoa. TV man? I thought I left him at the Termina Field dump. Oh boy. Hey, come on in. TV man, I can't let you write these scripts. It's unprofessional. Who hired you anyway? Alright, a man of few words, I respect it. Come on in and make yourself at home. Let me reword some of this. The Music Box House is the home of Matthew Nobles. Yes, this Matthew Nobles.
Hello, is this Robert Chandler?
Yes.
Hello?
Who is this?
Oh, hi, Mr. Chandler. Hi, my name is Matthew Nobles. I think you just tried to call me back. I left you a message.
And his daughter, Pamela. This house is clearly based on a music box. But this house ain't playing music, however, and it's locked. Alright, great. Well, I ain't going there now since it's locked. Well, let's go behind the house. Up into this cave. Caves are pretty cool. Let's check this out. What the hell? This isn't the cave I entered. Let me leave again. Let me come back in. Alright, that's more like it. Okay, we got some water here that's green. Well, that sucks. Let me try something. Oh, alright, okay. Okay, here's the Poe. Let me play some music for this guy, and I hear a... Yep, there's a sob story, and the water is back. Let's go! Alright, so the Gibdos are gone, and the house is now unlocked, so let's try to get in. Alright, that's pretty good. It's a pretty cool place to get here, and, the only place to go is down, so I might as well go into the basement. This seems to be it's a pretty basic Gibdo. Might as well kill it while I have the chance, you know what I'm saying? Well, he seems to be completely indestructible. Oh lord, here's the girl, and she's telling me to go away. I could try a different approach, however. I can lure her out and wear the Stones mask. Look at this sucker, I can't believe I tricked this fool. Alright, now we're back inside the house and I'm going to play him a really soothing song. Okay, great, he's better, and now we can get some heartthrob about how happy they are. It's pretty cool. He's a ghost researcher and he can tell you some cool lore about the monsters found here. I'm really touched by this scene that I just watched, and I really think I need to take a break from this now. I think the door's unlocked. Just give it a push. Huh. Must be a prank. Oh. Hello, Tingle. I can explain, I really needed a break. I've been making these videos for 14 hours straight, okay? Tingle, I'm serious. I'll get back to the videos soon. I just can't keep doing this, okay? Tingle, I'll get it done, alright? You don't have to worry about it. I'll get it done by next week, alright? Can you please use your words? Alright everyone, welcome back. I'm not sure exactly what kind of got into me there, but I've since snapped out of that So let's talk about what else is inside the iconic canyon area of Clearly. Inside the Spirit House, we can replay the mini-bosses from Ocarina of Time, or Ocarina of Time. Some people may disagree on that pronunciation, whatever you want to call it. That we can find inside the Ocarina of Time Forest Temple. The Poe Collector is also back, and you can pay him 30 rupees to play, and it's not too hard. If you played Ocarina of Time, if you played this, you know. If you played the Poe Man Spirit House minigame without even knowing if you played Ocarina of Time. But you look at that. You're also only given 3 minutes to do it, so that's kind of a twist. It's not too bad. I was able to do it with, I think, a minute remaining. It is fun to be able to fight these guys once again. Once you do this, however, the Poe Collector, he just disappears. He's out. He's done. He's sick of you. In his secret shrine, we can find some real classics, such as 4 mini-boss battles from previous dungeons. Wow, that's real hard. This is the last area in the game I think you can actually really do besides the boss, since you do need a light areas to get in this place. This is a very fun mini-dungeon, and I do enjoy it. Sakon's hideout is also a pretty interesting place, I think. It's only used once in the entire game, and all you do here is go through a small puzzle, then you fight monsters. Now, what makes this place unique is that you can play as Cafe. Now, this is a very cool concept, and I do enjoy this. I will be making another video one day on the Anju and Cafe side quest, so stay tuned for that soon. Beneath the Well is a very long and boring trading quest. I never enjoyed this part of this area at all when I first played, and when I most recently played, it's a complete drag. I always thought it was really cryptic as well. You do get the mirror shield from this mini dungeon, however, so that is pretty cool. The final area I want to discuss here is the Stone Tower Temple. This place is really interesting. It has a mechanic that isn't really seen anywhere else in the Zelda games, or Majora's Mask for that matter. I really like this temple too. It's very eerie and it's all around really cool. The tower itself can be seen from all around Termina. You can pretty much see this landmark from anywhere in the game. There also is a lot of iconography here that isn't found anywhere in this game for that matter, this being the Triforce. There are holes in the wall of the tower too, this tower is very strange. In the temple we can also find a lot of hints that this temple is out of this world. I think the most obvious hint is that the temple can flip gravity. Now this is, on its own, it's already a pretty huge thing that's going on here. You don't see this anywhere else in this game or the Zelda series as a whole, up to my knowledge. This alone is already alerting us that the people who built this temple have very advanced knowledge of how the world works here. This gravity flip also seems to be isolated to the temple itself. The rest of the world acts as if nothing has really changed. Once you're out of here, it's very interesting. You think that Great Bay would completely drain of the water, or Snowhead would be on its head, for that matter. Funny dad joke there. I also want to talk about the enemies found here, as well as the boss. Since I don't feel like giving a full description for all the enemies here, I'll just give you guys names and photos, kind of like a PowerPoint. We have the Armos, the Beamos, Big Deku Baba, the Black Bows, Deaf Armos, Dexy Hands, Dragonflies, Igors, Wizrobes, Flying Pots, Hip Loops, Nejrons, which we've mentioned earlier, Pose, the Real Bomb Chews, which we've also mentioned earlier, and the Spikes. All of the enemies are pretty different than what we've seen so far in our quest. I also want to add that I really like the atmosphere of this temple. It feels more like this weird apartment or housing complex for some really weird race of people. As for mini-bosses in this temple, we have the Master Garo. He's here, and he's a pretty cool mini-boss fight. He actually bombs himself once you defeat him. Another mini-boss here is Gomez. Gomez is like this weird bat monster guy, and it's really interesting. It's a really cool concept for a mini-boss, or even a boss fight for that matter. I could definitely see this enemy being expanded upon and used as a legitimate boss. Another mini-boss would also be Igor. This guy's pretty interesting. I did mention him earlier, but he's kind of like a mini-boss. He's kind of like halfway there. He's not as cool as the other guys in the mini-boss league, but he's a mini-boss. He's a minor league boss. Minor league mini-boss, I could say. He was so insignificant to me that I didn't even think of him when I started writing this video. So I'd really just consider this guy a regular enemy, or as I said earlier, the minor league mini-boss league, whatever the hell I was talking about. The boss for this dungeon is Twin Mold. You get to use the Giant's Master this battle, and it's really fun just to wail on the boss at the end of this game. This also feels like a boss that was completely ruined on the 3DS port of this game. This boss was made into a complete joke. I remember when I first fought him, I legitimately gave up and stopped playing it. It was that bad. In short, do not play the 3DS version of the game, just play the Mr. Wise Guy port. There are a few theories regarding who exactly built this temple. It's not explicitly said in the game, and most of these theories amount up to about 3 different solutions. Either a Saturmina Tower of Babel, biblical reference, it was built by the Garo, or it was built by some avian species, aka the birds for those who don't know what avian means. Personally, I think that the Garo built the temple. I think the Garo built this place for a few reasons, and I do think some text from the game does back my idea up here. The first reason is that the Garo is said to be from a faraway land. Now, what can we find inside this temple that could be from a faraway land or lead you to a faraway land? Well, that would be the portal to a faraway land that we find in the temple. Boom, there's Exhibit A. We will come back to this faraway land later on in the video, however. Another bit of evidence about the Garo building this place is the fact that the Garo Master is already here. The soldiers of Icona couldn't even get up to the top of the tower, so there's no real reason for the Garo to be up here. Now, you may be asking, so Joe, actually I think TV Man can say this because we have officially established him in this series.
But Joseph, how does the Garo Master kind of equate to this portal, huh?
Well, let me explain to you, TV Man, which is a stand-in for the concerned audience member. He's actually in the same room as the portal, as the boss portal, more specifically. The Garo Master also jumps out of the hole where this portal would be, so I think this is a very intentional touch. They could have very easily put this enemy, this mini-boss, also known as the Garo Master, inside the same room as Gomi's, so I think it has to mean something. I feel like the image of the guy from Ancient Aliens pointed to the thing. I mean, this has to mean something, that they put him in the same room here. Now, I have to talk about this portal, because some of you guys are probably scratching your head. What's so cool about the portal, dude? What's so big about the portal? Joseph, what's so big about the portal? Well, let me tell you, the portal is only accessible when the temple's flipped on its head. Now, once you fall into this portal, you're transported into a desert. Now, let's think. Let's put on our thinking caps. Where else in these games have we seen a desert? That's right, the Haunted Wasteland within the Ocarina of Time desert. Now we have to figure out, where could this Twin Mold battle be? And I think, with no proof at all, that it'll be right around here. This wormhole, for lack of a better term, could just be a small portal into another part of Hyrule. We have already seen something like this in the game already, like the Termina Tunnel. This is a very interesting area in the game altogether, and the Icona Castle video will also look into this lore as well. But we still need to talk about the graveyard. Now, the graveyard is a very interesting area in the game. Captain Kita is here, who gives you the captain hat. We'll expand on him more in the next episode. With this hat, you can actually command Stall Trials to do your will. There is a bit of a mini dungeon here as well, where you can fight an Iron Knuckle, learn the Song of Storms, and that's about it. The Song of Storms and the Iron Knuckle are both returners from Ocarina of Time. I do like how you can control the Stall children here with the captain hat. Captain Kita is also a pretty interesting character, since he was the leader of the army of Icona. But we'll talk about this all more in the next episode, the Ancient Castle of Icona. With all that said, Icona Valley is an all-around really cool area in the game, and I can't wait to talk about the next area, the Ancient Castle of Icona, in the next very lore-heavy video in this series. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share the video. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next week. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Majora's Mask Deep Dives. This is episode 9. Get that, the 9th episode. This is the 3-squared episode of this channel. And we'll be covering the Ancient Castle of Icona. Now, the Ancient Castle of Icona is the mini dungeon of sort for the iconic valley. This area is also where most of the lore is found for the area, and for reasons because of me, the lazy editor, our friends from the last episode that people didn't exactly meet with a very warm reception, they're not coming back. They're evicted, they're done. And because I don't have to edit this more than I really have to, let's get straight. Let's hop right into the enemies. The enemies in this area are the Blue Bubbles, Catulas, Garo, Redeads, and the Guais. Now, we've talked about all these enemies before, so there's no real reason to discuss these guys ever again. The mini-bosses we encounter here, though, are the Wizrobe, King's Lackeys, the King of Icona, of course, whose name is Egostu Icana. You notice I am switching up my pronunciations just to tick everybody off in today's episode. I would have swore there were Gibdos here as well, but to my disappointment, there was none. Disappointment is a theme in this place that will return often. I'm not exactly sure if I've talked about Wizrobe yet in this series, so I will now. Wizrobe is a returning enemy from the Zelda series. He was actually in Zelda 1. Now, what Wizrobe will do here is he's going to run around the arena, and he's going to make copies of himself, and then you got to strike the real target, and then he'll actually take damage. There are a few Wizrobes in this game. One of them is here, and the other two are in the Secret Shrine and Snowhead Temple. That's about it for them. That's all the Wizrobes I can think of. I'll talk about the king and his lackeys when we actually get to that segment of the video in like probably 4 minutes, depending on how long this video is. We'll see. Before we go inside, I want to talk about one single Easter egg. This Easter egg is the paper airplane found outside the temple or mini dungeon, whatever the hell you want to call it, I don't give a shit, on top of one of the pillars. Now, I don't hear this brought up very often, but I do think it's very cool. Whoever threw this plane must be pretty good at launching them, perhaps, because, you know, they must have tossed it off the stone tower, and it just so happened to land on one of the pillars. Now, if you've ever thrown a paper airplane, they kind of go, like, completely all over the place. It's completely unpredictable unless you're like some,
I'm a physics nerd. I know exactly what this thing's gonna do. It's gonna make a left turn, go up, down, left, right.
Nobody's like that. No real person is like that, okay? Unless you're like a complete nerd, which most of the people watching these videos, they're not.
Well, if you take the square root of 65 and you take the quadratic of 57 and you put in the Pythagorean theorem, and then let me adjust my glasses real quick, whoop, and then you put that in and you do this, that, and you plug it into the opportunity cost function, you're gonna get this.
No, nobody's like that. Watch. I have a feeling I'm not making anybody angry saying stuff like that.
Actually, if we look at the video here, this is actually this is called a sunk cost fallacy. This video is a sunk cost fallacy.
And I would say, hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. That's exactly what this video is. Yeah, there's a paper airplane on top of one of the pillars. Cool. Let's move on to the next section here. You can also learn a song here, and it's the Elegy of Emptiness. Now, what this song does, it summons a statue of Link. Excuse me, or anybody playing the song. Man, I got some acid reflux. Damn, I'm getting old. For example, if you're Zora Link and you play it, you'll make a statue of Mikau. If you play it as Link, it will summon Link. Many people who were born before the year 2005 may remember Ben Drowned. Ooh, spooky. A creepypasta about a kid who was like haunted by a cartridge of the game owned by a dead kid named Ben, and Ben actually drowned. You know, unless he's part of the drowned family, then he did not drown, he just died in a horrific manner to haunt a game cart. Either way, the story was awful, and for the 12-year-old watching this video who has no idea what I'm talking about, maybe one day I'll do a deep dive into Ben Drowned. But that'll be when I'm really out of ideas, maybe after Majora's Mask Fun Facts comes out. But we might as well get started with this stupid castle I gotta talk about. The outside of the place is pretty nonchalant. As you can see, there's a big gate and a big sign that says it ain't ever gonna open. Besides that, this is true. There is actually a hole in the wall right beside the place, so good job to the idiots who designed this place, I guess. I mean, a gate with no fence. It's really usable, in my opinion. It reminds me of that video of going, oh yes, paper with no pen. That's what this reminds me of.
Sign there, we would appreciate it.
Yes,
Very
a sheet but no pen, unfortunately, so maybe we'll get to that.
Okay.
To the complete morons at the castle must deserve this fate since they can't even design a fence correctly. So, you know, there we go. Moving on, we have a puzzle, and we need the mirror shield here. but I also think anybody who would happen to come in here would also solve this pretty easily. Imagine if you would, a young blood were to play with a mirror in here. You know, maybe it's a young girl doing her makeup. Oh, let me do my makeup in this dark cave real quick. Oh my god! Oh my gosh! I accidentally bumped the big frickin' trigger here, and now the sun's on me, and my mirror just took off the sunblock, and it's gone, and I'm inside this ancient castle. What were they thinking? It's almost like the people who made the mini dungeon in universe designed this place to be accessed by some idiot with a mirror. And I have an idea. Why not seal a hole in the wall? Huh? Anyone think of that? Oh, we can just seal a hole in the wall here and no one get in. Blah, 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 blah. Who the hell knows? You know, I'm not a brainiac, but this is just common sense. Moving on, we see the castle, and it's comically underwhelming. This is some sort of joke. This is no castle. This is a fort. This is a fort at best. Besides the underwhelming castle, the whole scene is pretty cool. You can see the stone tower overlooking the castle, and this altogether gives the place a really nice feel. The castle has a few pillars beside it. Now, the iconography here is different from the iconography from the pillars outside in Hyrule Field. Pretty interesting, since last time we met, I said that possibly Clocktown was a military post for the Icona, but my opinion on this is currently changing. I think possibly that Clocktown was built by the civilization that was here eons ago, the same ones who possibly built the stone tower. I think that maybe on the greatest day of my life, when this series is finished, maybe I'll talk about a theory video discussing that possibility. There's only one bit of Triforce iconography here, but it's also not exactly visible. Going inside the place, you are met with 3 Redeads. Now these guys drop a ton of rupees, and I bet you didn't know, and I bet you probably did know, if you wear the Gyarados mask, Captain Kita, or a Gara mask, they're going to dance for you. Yep, we have dancing zombies now in the Zelda game. Yep, they were really running out of ideas here. Now, to compensate for the small size of this place, we were giving dancing Redeads. Wow. There are 2 frozen eye switches on the wall that'll bring us to different places. Not even really puzzles anymore. You could have just put regular eye switches, but you gotta get the fire arrows, man. Man, you gotta get the fire arrows to get here. Like, it's good game design, bro. This game's awesome. Don't slander Majora's Mask. Don't do it. This game's really good. Whew. Man, I don't know what this video is gonna turn into. This is like a rehash of the Southern Swamp video. Good grief. In the other room, we can't really do anything because the sun's blocked. And, I mean, if you have the light arrows, go ahead and shoot it. It'll probably work. I don't know. But you can't do anything. So it's called progression. It's a stupid idea. We have 1 gimmick from the Forest Temple from Ocarina of Time. The only differences here in this room is you got to step on a pressure plate to open a door. Somehow, I actually had a good bit of trouble with this. I don't know, maybe I was like, maybe my CTE caught up with me, or some crazy stuff. Maybe I drank too much fluoride. Is that still a thing? People still say the fluoride stare. Maybe I didn't drink too much fluoride. I don't care. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about this crap anymore. I want to talk about Andy Kaufman and Sam Kinison. And I want to talk about Chris Chan. And I don't want to talk about Majora's Mask anymore. I can't even play the game anymore. I have a freaking iMac. I need to stop complaining. I should be grateful. I'm a grateful guy, guys, by the way. But after you get finished with this stupid room, you're met with a room with 2 blue bubbles. And then you're on the roof, and that's 1/3 of the dungeon. Yeah, that's 1/3 of it. Actually, it's probably like half. That's more like half of this place so far. So yeah, half. So there isn't much more we can really see. Going onto the roof, we're greeted with another pressure plate puzzle, as if this game is pulling its punches. It's really hitting me hard here with all these pressure plate puzzles. These are insanely hard. I just cannot comprehend. Once you somehow figure out the pressure plate puzzle, once you move the stone out here, there'll be 1 spot here that actually has a Triforce iconography. This is what I was talking about, the Triforce bullcrap we mentioned earlier. This stone's going to open up the roof a little bit to let in some sunlight. Boom. Now, moving on outside, we can see some pretty legit stuff, like the paper airplane I ranted about earlier. And looking at the landing spot, as I probably said earlier, it looks like it could be from the stone tower. Wow! Stone tower! Wow! Oh, don't look at me! Don't look at me! That's an Andy Kaufman reference. Looks like it could be from the stone tower. But if you've ever flown an airplane, much like I said earlier, and now I'm just repeating myself in the script, these things can move around, so I have no idea. As I sit here on my golden throne recording this, I shall now say, This should not be overanalyzed. It is clearly an Easter egg. Going back inside the place, we can go to the other side where the suns open up, and we can find more Redeads dancing if we're wearing a mask. It also seems as if some of these Redeads used to play Team Fortress 2 back in its heyday. As you can see, one of them's doing the Krakowski kick. Look at that, TF2 reference, like 12 years, like 7 years prior. Look at that, guys. Can you believe that? Moving on, we have to fight the Wizrobe. This is actually a really easy battle since the area is just a square on the same level. Each of the Wizrobe things are pretty close together too, so I completely wiped the floor with this sucker. Moving on, now we have a portion of the roof that was closed off earlier. We need to drop a powder keg in here to put another hole in the ceiling, letting in more light. We can drop down to this hole, accidentally kill all of these dancing Redeads, and then you can do a little... Excuse me, I almost burped again. As you can tell, I'm just a perfect one-take guy. You can actually kill all these Redeads, do a little sunbeaming, and get up to the boss chamber. And here, you finally come face to face with the king of this crappy kingdom. This place is the worst. This place fell apart. You know, let me not get carried away here. So, the king is the mini-boss, whatever. He's followed by his 2 lackeys, who are thought almost the exact same. Talk about effort in these videos here from me, because I'm the GOAT. But I would say, the setup for this battle is very interesting. He morphs into reality and closes the blinds on you. Wow. He closes the blinds. Now, that's weird. I don't know what he's going to do to me. And the whole battle is very disappointing. I remember this battle being like 50 times longer than it actually was, with a lot more stages than there was. I was extremely disappointed of this. And like how many of you guys are probably disappointed of how much effort I'm putting into this video right now. But there will probably be a handful of you guys who find this funny. I think the dislike ratio will be 90% disliked, 10% liked. Ooh, that's a big flip. That is a red lightsaber back in the day. That is a 1 star if you're an Unk. That's an old star, Unk. That's a 1 star for Unk. Yep. Flipping up my words now. I'm really losing it. So all you do is shoot the blinds of fire arrows. You knock these fools down and burn them with sunlight. You think the fire arrows would burn them too, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. What the hell? Well, once you defeat Egos du Ikini, yeah, that's a new pronunciation. Ikini. He's gonna give you the lore dump I promised to talk about in the last episode. And I'm not gonna do that. I'm changing my mind. I'm gonna tell you a big summary. The kingdom fell because the tower had some evil power coming out of it. Whoa! Chicken jockey. Maybe to get to the water tower. Yeah, this is now a water tower. Maybe to get to the big water tower in the Stone Tower Temple, they should have done a water bucket release. I just instantly dated this video. Good grief. This video is now full of unfunny memes too. In 2 months, when people are watching this for the first time, they're like, oh god, this guy's a freaking loser. This guy's an idiot. You know, maybe I am. That's for you to decide. Yep. And he also, and the dead are lingering because of Skull Kid. That's also what was revealed here. And he will teach you the Elegy of Emptiness. And this will create statues of whoever's wearing whoever is playing the song. I was gonna say wearing the mask, but I don't know. And I do have a little theory. And when you make all the transformation masks as well as Link and the statues, you'll notice that the eyes of the confirmed dead are white. Now, listen up. Link's eyes are normal, so that makes me believe that Link is not dead. That game theory video was a sham. I think that actually did got a lot of negative feedback back in the day, but that was like 12 years ago, I think. And I think PBG was in that video too, so I don't know. I'm not up to date on my game theory lore. It's been like 15 years, it feels like now, so that's neither here or there. As you know, Romani and Macau are confirmed dead. We watched them die. We watched Macau die. We saw the ghost of Romani walking around, so he's confirmed dead. They're both confirmed dead. Deku Link is confirmed to be, well, not confirmed, it's believed to be the tree that we saw at the beginning of the game. And Link is clearly still alive. We are Link. So what's going on here? I must have thought that was like a Vsauce thing, because I don't know. I think this may confirm that Deku Link is still alive, or that Dekus don't die, like how other beings die in this series. If we go with the idea that Termina is a parallel world, then we can think that maybe the Hylian version of the Deku Butler son is alive, whilst the Termina one is dead. Now this can go either way, it's probably the other way around, I don't know what I was writing here. I said in my community post I'll be doing touch-ups, clearly I must not have. Now, the Elegy of Emptiness works on Hylian since it works on Link. So the transformation mask is a Hylian Deku scrub that is to explain why the eyes of the Deku are still full. And if we're only talking about Hylians, maybe they're white or not Hylians, Terminians? Terminal people? Termina folk are white. I don't know what I was saying here. Now this could also just be, and it probably is, a complete over-analysis of this idea. Now, if you are interested in this idea I'm spouting out here, maybe in 15,000 years, after I'm done doing Majora's Mask and Fun Facts Part 15,000, we can talk about that. This whole concept I just explained does need some serious work, however. As for the rest of the place, I was extremely disappointed. I remember this place being much larger and more content-filled than how it really was. If I would have played this area before finishing the video, I would have included this in the Icona Valley video, which probably should have been done. That's all I really have to say about this place in the game. The next episode, we'll be traveling to the moon to look at the 4 mini-dungeons there as well, as the final boss. I'm sorry about the weird upload schedule recently. College is ramping up again and I'm trying to balance it all out. Actually today I'm very close to finishing one of my online classes, so that's going to be done probably before this video even comes out. However, I'll see you guys all in a few weeks. I think maybe I'll do a different Zelda game before then. Since I am on iMac now, it's a little bit harder to do stuff like that. Zelda 64 Recomp is not available on Mac yet. If I can find an email address for Mr. Wise Guy, I will reach down and be like, hey, I've noticed you haven't updated this project since like June of 2024. What you doing? I understand the guy has a life, but I'd like to know. People don't do that to me, so I probably shouldn't. Majora's Mask Deep Dive, something I've largely ignored since April of 2025. And wow, it seems like forever ago I was playing the Wise Guy port of Majora's Mask, and wow, my channel sure has changed a lot since then. I pivoted my channel to tech-based stuff and haven't touched video games since. But I did promise this video forever ago, and I really should finish it all up. Besides, Majora's Mask is a great game, and I think I could play it, I think I could play it again. Before we get into this deep dive, let's talk about the supercut planned for this video series. After this video is complete, I'm going to release a supercut with all the previous videos compiled together as one big massive video. Now sadly, I don't have the old video project files anymore for some of the older projects, and even some of the old video files I've had to download off YouTube, so I don't know how I lost some of those, but I'll have them again, and hopefully it should be good. I wish I could re-edit them and just make them a little bit better, but I'll try my best with the video files I have at the moment. I think we should start off with what this video is about, and that is the Majora's Mask Moon and any other parts I happen to slim over in Clocktown. And after rechecking the Clocktown deep dive I did back almost a year ago now, wow, that's crazy. I didn't really miss anything that important that I can't talk about now. So, how do we get here? Nobody asked in unison. Well, we have to wait till it's midnight of the final day, where the clock tower will open up. I believe I did talk about this in the past. Pretty simple if I do say so myself. Once it opens, we are actually able to walk up there and finally get some stuff done. So now, we are on top of the clock tower. And Skull Kid is doing the same charade we saw in the beginning of the game, where he's all bark and no bite, for lack of a better term, and he brings down the moon. But we have one thing he lacks, and that's some foresight and the Zelda Dungeon Wiki. So now if we play the Oath to Order, we can call in the giants that we freed from the 4 regions. So now they're going to come out in this super long cutscene and hold up the moon in place, despite the fact that they're not even holding onto the moon, but hey, game development's hard, what can I say? They made this game in 18 months or something like that. So they hold up the moon, and the day is saved, believe it or not. So we can go ahead and wrap this video up. Hope you guys enjoy watching. No, not yet. So now Majora this is a twist. Majora is now in control of Skull Kid, and he leaves Skull Kid to die.
And now we enter the celestial body that is invading our atmosphere, known as the moon for face. And we go in, and well, this sure is not the inside of the moon I imagined. This looks to me more like the Tree of Life, a classic icon in Abrahamic religion. Maybe we're inside the Garden of Eden. Now, I don't think so, since I don't see the Tigris or Euphrates, but maybe the developers forgot to add it. Hey, they only made this game in 18 months. Game development's pretty hard. You know, maybe this is actually the Garden of Termina. You know, I don't know. Leave your ideas in the comments below. Leave your ideas in the comments below, y'all. So, what's actually up here? Well, there's the tree, and there are 5 kids. 4 of these kids are wearing the masks of the bosses that we dealt with earlier in the game. This is the Owadola mask, the Goat mask, the Gyorg mask, and the Twin Mold mask. But there's also a kid under the tree who's being a real Debbie Downer and not frolicking through the fields here in this weird Field of Dreams, or Roblox Field of Battle. Yeah, remember that? I used to play that before the Captain America event, and that's how old school I am. But besides that, let's go over these kids in order of boss fights. So first we have the Owadola kid who asks for 2 masks in total. He takes us to a forest temple-like area where he uses the Deku flowers to get us to the end, or really we use them to get to the end. So there's already a theme established here. Each one of these areas will make use of the transformation mask in some way to get to the end. We have to travel to these other floating islands to get to the end of the place, and it's done. He asks us a question about life, and let me see here. Oh, should I bring this back, or does this still leave a sour taste in some of your mouths? Haven't seen this fellow in a while, haven't y'all? Well, he asked, the kid I should say, asked about my friends and what kind of people they are. The next kid is the Goat Kid, who will make use of the Goron mask to run through a little race. Okay, you use the Goron mask and you run through a racetrack thing, and it ends pretty quick. That's pretty much the bare gist of this one. There's really not much to say here. He makes us give him 4 masks in total, and the price, you can tell, is thickening here. A little side here, I've always wondered if you could only get the absolute minimum amount of masks to run out of masks before you talk to the Majora kid, because spoiler alert, the Majora kids gives you the Fair Stadium mask when you're all out of masks. So I've always wondered, it was always an idea, this is completely off script, it was always an idea of mine if I can get like the minimum 6 or 10 amount of masks you need just to get there in the game, because I know some parts of the game you are required to have a certain mask, like the Giant's mask, and a few others. The Giant's mask, the Gara's mask, the Gibdo's mask, those are 3 I can think of that you're required to have by the end of the game, but I'm not sure what others. I've always wondered if you could make that minimum amount somehow and still get the Fear Stadium mask. But it's probably not possible. If it is, let me know in the comments. Besides that, the Goron kid is behind this little ice area here, and he also asks you a very philosophical question. He asks us what makes us happy, and if it also makes other people happy. You know, a following theme I have here, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if what makes you happy makes other people happy. Next is the Gyorg kid, or I should just call him the Fish Kid, who asks for a total of 6 masks. This segment is by far the absolute fastest. You use the Zora mask to swim through the moon's plumbing system, and a pattern of left, left, right, right, or my left, right, left, left, or something, whatever I did. I messed it up a bit, but I still got there. He also asks us a question, if the right thing is really the right thing that makes other people happy. It's kind of like that Simpsons bit where they build a house on good intentions. You can't build a house on good intentions, Marge, as Ned Flanders says. As I said before, I don't know, guys. Why don't you leave it in the comments below. Now, on to our last kid, who we have to get robbed by before we can progress. And this is the first little gauntlet of some sort that has some real variation to it. And we have to fight some enemies. A lizard, a Garamasker, and the guy's whose name I forgot. I think it's an Iron Hand. It's been a while since I played this game. Leave it in the comments, whatever it is. So here we go. And there's some real puzzles too, like using bomb chews to break open holes to shoot an eye at with eye switches. Very basic Zelda stuff, you know, you solve it the moment you walk inside the room. This area is by far the most diverse, since we actually have to use our sword, and I do enjoy this much more than the others. We are also asked a question here that should be pondered upon. He asks us if our true face, or he asks us about our true face, what type of face is it? And if this true face is really true, it's just these weird, stupid philosophical things. I don't know, you guys leave that in the comments what you think about that. Now, about the Majora fight, he goes through several different forms here. There is Majora's Mask, Majora's Incarnation, and Majora's Wrath. Now, with the Fierce Deity Mask, this is a real breeze and is very simple. And there we have it. The credits roll. You get to see the Happy Mask Salesman disappear with his lack of transition frames. Because, you know, game development's hard. This game only came out in 18 months, guys. You gotta defend it for that. That's not the real reason. That was clearly intentional. But, yeah, it's a weird ending. It is confirmed the Skull Kid at the end of the game is the Skull Kid from Ocarina of Time that you taught Serious Song to. I cannot speak tonight. So yeah, that wraps it up. That wraps up the Hero of Time trilogy, unless you want to count Twilight Princess with the Hero Shade. But that is that. That's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this final wrap-up for the Majora's Mask deep dive, something I really pushed off so I can do tech videos that, I guess people like them. I like doing them. There's going to be another one coming soon. I don't know when this video is going to be released. This is kind of low on my priority chart, but I want to get it done soon, since it's the smallest project I have, and I want to get it done to finish this series up and to give you guys the supercut. And I like supercuts. I think they're a cool idea. You guys can binge them. You guys can binge a supercut, and I can put 1 billion ads in it. No, that sounds very greedy of me. That sounds ridiculous. I guess we can take this last bit here as like my exclusive Joe's Member podcast show, even though this is not the Joe's Member podcast show. But, you know, I hope you guys enjoyed this as a nice wrap-up to the series that kind of got me into really doing YouTube, and that really carried me for those first 8, really the full year. The first year I was doing this, that kind of carried me along the whole way. This and the deep dive is going to be a big thank you for the first 500 or so people that stuck around with me for the channel. I think it was about 500 subscribers I gained. So this video really goes out to you guys. This is just, you know, to wrap it up here. Let me know in the comments down below of this, or you can really wait till the supercut. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the supercut and all that. And that's about it. You're probably wondering why I stopped doing these videos. This video is really just gonna be a wrap up for the supercut now, I guess. You're probably wondering why did I stop doing the Majora's Mask videos, and well, it's simply because I got very sick of playing video games, because every video I'd have to get about an hour of footage, and I would only use like 10 minutes of it for the video, and I got very sick of writing about it. I got extremely burnt out from Majora's Mask. Even though I was only doing it maybe once a month, I did get extremely burnt out simply because I was... The most of the semester I was doing it in was a very heavy semester. I think it was 19 credits, which is a good bit for a college. I think the minimum in Penn State is 12. Maybe it's 14, so I was taking a lot more classes. And they were heavy classes. I had to make presentations like every single week. So I had a very heavy workload. I was working a lot. I had a heavy school workload. And these videos just kind of felt like a true hindrance because I needed to get them done. Well, I didn't need to. I just felt like I needed to. But that's why I stopped doing Majora's Mask. I really fell out of the game. Same if I tried doing Ocarina of Time, and I tried doing Link to the Past, and I also tried doing Earthbound just to give myself a break. But playing video games like that got me so burnt out. So that is why I stopped doing video game content. So I guess we can add this into the supercut outro. But that's essentially why I stopped. But besides that, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I had fun doing it for the last one, of course. I had fun playing. I had fun just revisiting it. But that is about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And thanks for sticking around for the video game stuff. If you don't want to be around for the video game stuff anymore, just go ahead and unsubscribe. Because I'm probably not going to be making any more of these. I may make videos about the technology behind Majora's Mask, maybe in the future, or the technology behind Ocarina of Time, or the Nintendo 64, or some Nintendo consoles. I have those planned. I haven't touched those plans at all, but I have them on a list somewhere where I put my video ideas down for. So if you guys want to stick around for that, for my original 500 subscribers or so, go ahead. That'll be really appreciated. But that is about it. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and thanks for sticking around.
The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask was released on April 27, 2000 to Japanese markets, and later on October 27, 2000 to North American markets. This game was made for the Nintendo 64. This was Nintendo's third home console following the Super Nintendo, or Super Famicom as it was known in Japanese markets. Recently, in February of 2015, the 3DS remake of the game was released. In this video, I will be covering the North American release on the Nintendo 64. This is the version I played for the review, but I've also played the absolute original via the Wii Virtual Console and the newer 3DS port. The 3DS port will be covered near the end of the video. There will also be timestamps in the description for each different segments of this video. I'd like to thank Mr. Wise Guy for this amazing PC port of the game. This is an amazing port, and all gameplay footage gathered was recorded using this port. With all that, on to the video. You cannot talk about Majora's Mask without mentioning Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was the first 3D title in the Zelda series, and it's also regarded as the greatest video game ever created. Well, the Metacritic listing has a score of 99, and it deserves it. After release of Ocarina of Time, the development team behind it wanted to make another 3D Zelda game. Shigeru Miyamoto wanted the remix dungeons, which eventually became the Master Quest, while Eiji Aonuma wanted to make a whole new game. Miyamoto told him he had to make it in less than 2 years, so Aonuma got to work. When playing the game, you can tell it was made rather quickly. Many assets were reused, but the game still functions very well, unlike some other games that were made on a time crunch. Despite only having 4 dungeons, compared to the 9 in the game before it, not including the 2 mini dungeons and Ganondorf's castle, the game required the Nintendo 64 expansion pack to run. This was a memory expansion that increased the available memory for the games to pull from, as well as screen resolution. Another game that required this was Donkey Kong 64. Most of the music in the game was also brand new, besides a few themes here and there like the shop theme and a few others. Besides assets, the majority of the content in the game was new. The play area consists of several different regions: Clocktown and Hyrule Field, the Southern Swamp, Snowhead, Great Bay, and Iconic Canyon. Each of these areas provided many hours of gameplay. My favorite's either Iconic Valley for its general aesthetic or Great Bay for the Zora Swimming and the Zora Swimming Beaver Race minigame. Clocktown's also a great place to interact with many of the NPCs with different dialogue options depending on the day and the time of day. Yes, that's right, this is something Ocarina of Time did not do to this extent. This game is a 3-day cycle, with different things happening on different days and different times. My favorite being the Old Woman robbery in North Clocktown at midnight on day 1. This 3-day cycle was a part of the time crunch developers were on while making the game. Each area is spaced out and timed appropriately, where it takes about 3 days to do the non-dungeon quests in the area. The dungeon will also take about 3 days depending on how well you know it. Each cycle is about 54 minutes long. When you play the song and time in reverse, you get about 3 hours a cycle. It's actually possible to beat the entire game within the 3 hours, but it's very challenging and requires you to complete dungeons out of order and skip many side quests. In some cases, even entire dungeons in out of order. I haven't mentioned saving yet, but this is done by playing the Song of Time. In the original Japanese release, this was the only way to save, but in the North American release, they added a save feature to the owl statues in the game. A feature that, personally, I never used and I thought it was stupid. On the 3DS release, they removed the feature of saving by playing the Song of Time exclusively, and made it so you can only save the saves of the owl statues. When you play the Song of Time, it takes away all non-important items like arrows, rupees, and sends you back to start the 3-day cycle in Clocktown. A mechanic ignored for the most part in Ocarina of Time was the mask, and the title of the game didn't give it away. Masks play an important part in this game. There are 3 transformation masks and 1 optional endgame transformation mask. You get these masks by healing the souls of the dead. These masks let you transform into different races. This being the Deku, which you get first, the Goron, which you get second, and Azora, which you get 3rd. Each mask has its own abilities and weaknesses, and the dungeon and the areas where you obtain these masks requires the use of them the most. When you wear the mask, other NPCs will believe you are the mask that is who previously wore it. This plays into important parts of the story later on. The endgame mask is the fierce deity mask, and it's overpowered and makes the final boss a complete joke. Now that the main functions are taken care of, it's time to move on to the plot. The plot of the game is as follows. After Ocarina of Time, Navi, Link's fairy, left him. This puts Link into a major depression, and he's still looking for her. We find Link in the Lost Woods. These Lost Woods look more like the beta Lost Woods from Zelda 64, where instead of rooms, it was an actual forest. Link is riding on his horse, Epona, when he's bugged by a Skull Kid wearing a new mask. This is Majora's mask. Skull Kid steals his ocarina and his horse. Link chases him through the woods, and then he falls into a massive tree. When he falls in this tree, he sees a bunch of hallucinations of masks and ocarinas and other things that's going to appear later in the game. Skull Kid's at the bottom, and he tells him that he got off his horse, and he gave it away. Then he transforms Link into a Deku. Skull Kid flies away, and one of his 2 fairies, Tattle, is separated. Out of desperation, she sides with Link, and they travel through the woods and go through a hallway, which has been theorized to be a portal into Termina. This hallway also looks a lot like the one hallway from the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time. But you end up inside the clock tower, and when you try to leave, you meet the Happy Mask salesman from Ocarina of Time. He reveals that he's been following you, and he's looking for his stolen mask, and it's the same one that Skull Kid's been wearing. So he cuts you a deal, where he's like, hey, if you get this mask back, I'll turn you back into your former self. And a deal is a deal, so you, Link, the player, goes out, and you gotta get this mask back, so that's your objective. Once you're out in Clocktown, this quest is fairly easy. It only took me about 15 minutes to do it all. What you need to do is to get the Skull Kid, but how are you gonna do that? Well, there isn't much to do, because you're Deku Link. When I was 8 years old when I first played this, I couldn't figure it out. And it stumped me for literal months, and I just went back to Ocarina of Time. But eventually I figured out what to do via the internet, and it was not as hard as I thought. So once you explore enough, you'll eventually find a piece of the Stray Fairy. This is a mechanic that's going to come back in the game a lot, especially in the dungeon, just to pad out more time. So there is a fairy fountain in North Clocktown, and if you have the Stray Fairy, you can take it to her, and she will be reassembled, and she'll give you magic power, so you can shoot bubbles as Deku form, as Deku Link. Once you get out of the shrine, you see a kid shooting a balloon, which you probably already saw if you were just looking around. You can shoot this balloon, and the child will make you play a game. It's kind of like hide and seek. Once you find these kids, all of them, they'll give you a code to the secret hideout, which is the Astral Observatory. In this observatory, you can use a telescope to get a view of Termina Field, which you can't enter yet, since the guards won't let you out, since you don't have a sword and you're a child. When you look towards the clock tower, you see Skull Kid, who then looks to the moon, which is going to fall in Termina in 3 days. What I didn't mention yet is that since the moon will crash in Termina, this is why the time limit is here. This is what's going to happen if you let it fall. The moon will drop a meteor onto the deck area of the Astral Observatory. This is the moon's tier, and in town, a Deku merchant wants this to trade for his Deku flower. I'm pretty sure he wants to give it to his wife or something. A game mechanic. Now, Deku flower is a game mechanic that lets you fly.
now you have to wait until the clock tower opens for you to walk up, which just happens at midnight on the 3rd day. So if you finish this by like 2 a.m. on day 1, you got a while to wait. But luckily there are scarecrows that would let you speed up time. Eventually you can get up to the tower and you can shoot Skull Kid to get your ocarina back. Once you pick it up, you get a flashback from Princess Zelda where you relearn the Song of Time. By playing this, you can transport back to the start of the 3-day cycle. You can go back to the Happy Mask Salesman where he teaches you the Song of Healing. And now this will heal you from your curse and you'll get the mask. He's also under the impression that you had his mask back, and this is why he does this to begin with. He's saddened and he lashes out at Link for being semi-tricked. Also, I like to add, and I noticed this as writing this, that time does not pass while inside this building. And I believe the Song of Time does not affect this area. Since it'll be odd from his perspective, the Happy Mask Salesman, that no time has passed since you first left this building and now you're coming back. The Happy Mask Salesman's also extremely strange. The Happy Mask Salesman also lacks transition animations, and he's a very jerky and odd character. I do not like him. This is just the beginning of the game. I will not be given a full synopsis of details. Woodfall is the forest area of this game. It mimics meeting the Deku's first in Ocarina of Time. In this area, there's a lot of issues with the water. It's poisoned and the Deku Princess is missing. The Deku King blames these monkeys for her disappearance. Kotake and Kotume are back as witches in a potion hut. One of the sisters is lost inside this game's version of the Lost Woods. You are tasked by the monkeys in these woods to save their friend, and break into the Deku Palace. Once you eventually do, the monkey teaches you a sacred song from the Deku family. This song awakens the Woodfall Temple. One mechanic you gain access to here is warp statues. These let you warp around Termina. Gabora, the owl, will teach you the song used to fast travel, and it's a massive time saver and a help. With owl statues all around important places in Termina, where you need to go, you will be using this a lot. The temple of this area is Woodfall Temple. This is by far the easiest temple in the game. Its main mechanic is the Deku Flower, and it's rather short. The Stray Fairy collection consists of 15 fairies to find in each dungeon, and when you collect them all, you can bring them to the fairy fountain near the temple in each area to reassemble the Great Fairy and unlock an optional skill. The skill for this area is a larger area for Link's spin attacks. The boss of this dungeon is Old Dolwa. He is a tribal looking boss, and I think he's my second favorite boss in the game. He's very open about how to attack, just try anything and he'll be defeated. He's also very easy. The main item you get here is the Hero's Bell. Once you defeat the boss, a portal opens to a mysterious realm where you meet a giant who teaches you the Oath to Order. This song is used in the endgame to summon him and 3 other giants who are freed after beating the boss of each temple. Also, each boss drops a mask. You can't wear this mask, but it lets you replay the boss battle in a different cycle, and is very useful if you forgot to do a side quest in an area that requires the temple to be cleared. Once you beat the temple, Woodfall returns to normal, and you'll find the Deku Princess in the basement. You'll need to put her in a bottle and deliver her to the Deku Palace, where the king will release the monkey. Woodfall is saved. There's an optional side quest here, where you race a Deku butler, who gives you a mask and says you remind him of his son, who's lost. Now, spoiler alert, this is the dead tree you see at the beginning of the game, and it's implied that Skull Kid killed him and turned him into you. Moving on to the next area, Snowhead. Snowhead is, as mentioned earlier, and by the name, covered in snow. When you get here, you realize that snow seems worse than a typical winter, and many things and people are pretty frozen over. Hanging that something's pretty wrong here. You keep exploring and finally make it to the Goron Village where you meet Gabora again. He leaves you feathers in the area that you're supposed to jump onto, and this will lead you to an area where you get the Lens of Truth, an item from Ocarina of Time, and used much less in this game. Once you leave this area, naturally the player will put them on and see what he's missed. The first thing he'll see is that the ice block. The first thing he'll see is where the feathers were previously are now ice blocks that were invisible, and it goes to Goron off in the distance. Speaking to him will have you follow him to his gravesite. Once there, you play the Song of Time for him and he drops the mask. His soul is put to rest. He begs for you to save him. Eventually, you'll take his form and enter Goron Hall, where a child is crying with an extremely annoying cry.
He needs a lullaby and is looking for his father. You'll find his father out on the ice between the mountain village and the Goron village. He is an old cook. An old cook? No, he's an old kook. He'll teach you the intro to the lullaby, and you're able to play this to the crying child. The child then stops crying and teaches you the rest. Then he puts himself to sleep, and every other Goron. Now that you learned this song, you can go to the temple. On the road to Snowhead Temple, there's a massive invisible Goron blocking the path. And he's also blowing you off the path. You can use the lens of truth to see him and to put him to sleep. This temple consists of areas that use the mechanics of the Goron's ability to roll. And if you were like me, spent many hours rolling across Hyrule Field collecting rupees and items, stocking up before dungeons. This temple has many floors. It has a main room with branching paths. The temple also isn't incredibly hard. I used to think this was harder, but after playing it for the review, I found to enjoy it much more. The smooth controls of the PC port along to 60 frames a second and HD display definitely make it easier. As playing through the game this way, I believe that it is the hardware limitations that made it as hard as I thought it was when I was younger. Before this, it had been a decade since I did a last full playthrough of the game, and even then it was not 100%. The item unlocked in this dungeon is the fire arrows, which are used greatly to melt ice and other ice around Termina. And later in Great Bay Temple, the next area. Oh, never mind, I read that wrong. So the fire arrows are used in this temple to melt ice and all other ice around Termina, and also in Great Bay Temple. The fairy reward here is an extended magic mirror. Meter. The boss of this dungeon is Goat, or Got, depends on how you pronounce it. I believe it's Got, but others say Goat, so to each their own. You chase him around a ring in Goron form. The boss isn't hard, but it's fun. Once you beat him, Snowhead will return to normal weather, and in this case, spring. Typically after clearing the temple, each area will go through a significant change. With Woodfall being the poisonous water plaguing the area is gone, and here the horrible winter plaguing the Gorons is now gone. There are several side quests you can do here, and one is mandatory. There's a massive bomb-dealing Goron who will give you a powder keg to clear the rock blocking the Goron racetrack. You can also use a swordsmith in the mountain village for a sword upgrade for 100 rupees. This one you'll get the razor sword, so you can give it to him, but you also do the Goron racetrack, which will give you gold dust. So once you go back to get your sword, he'll be like, hey, I'll upgrade your sword again for some gold dust, and he'll be like, oh, here you go, bud. And after that, you get the goated sword. It has longer length, and I think it's a pretty cool design. I would never stick with the razor sword, since it breaks after 100 uses. If you return to the Goron who sold you the powder keg, you can be certified to handle powder kegs. The certification stays with you even when you play the Song of Time, and there's a Goron in the bomb shop who will sell them to you. The powder kegs are required for the next area of the game, and the next required character. Now, if you're not like me, you may be wondering, what the hell happened to Epona? And if you did some wondering on day 3 of the game, and you just decided, I'm going to explore, I got nothing to do, you may have discovered Romani Ranch, where Epona is being kept captive. Although, if you go there on day 3, nothing's going to happen and you can't get her. But, if you come back on day 1 with Powder Keg, you'll see a massive boulder is blocking the path, and you can blow it up and get into Romani Ranch. Here you'll find Romani, who's just Malin from Ocarina of Time. She'll tell you that aliens invade the ranch every year and steals all the cows. She also tasks you with helping her and teaching, and she also teaches you Epona's song for this quest. She also puts you through a little quick target practice for the alien invasion. Now, if you're normal, you can just leave and never come back and just let her get captured by aliens. But you're not normal. You're a nice fella. So, what you do is at 2 a.m. on the first day, the aliens are going to invade the ranch, and you got to take them out. And if you play the reverse Song of Time, the aliens are going to move half as fast, so they're going to move double slow. And if you have the bunny hood on, it's even easier. Now, this is how I've always done the quest. I usually do it in the same cycle. I just slow time, put the bunny hood on, and make sure I have a bunch of arrows. The bunny hood's also objectively the best mask in the game, so I'm going to speak about that now. The bunny hood lets you move twice as fast, and in a game where time is limited, it's incredibly useful. And it's pretty easy to get as well. And you're most likely even able to get it on the first cycle as Human Link if you know what you're doing. Many masks in this game involve a small side quest or talking to someone at the right time. To get the bunny hood, you must talk to Guru in Night 1 or 2 in the laundry pool of Clocktown, where he reveals he stole a mask from some dude. This is the Bremen mask, and it lets animals follow you in a march. Now, if you go to Romani Ranch in the chicken coop, you find a man named Grog, who's unnamed in Ocarina of Time, and he's a depressed loser who turns into a Stalfos. They're in the Big Goron sword quest. He'll claim that his only regret in life is that he didn't see his chicks grow up in the cuckoos. And then if you make them all march behind you, they'll grow up. And he says he'll perish happily when the moon falls, and he gives you the bunny hood. The fact that this quest is rather easy and how overpowered the mask is from a complete gameplay perspective, it's pretty stupid not to get the mask. Once you finish the alien invasion at around 5:15, you now have the opportunity to help Romani's sister, Cremia, deliver milk to Clocktown for the carnival. On your trip, of course, because something has to happen, the road is blocked by a fence, so you gotta take the more dangerous path. On this path, you're ambushed by 2 men wearing ninja masks. You need to shoot them with your arrows to fend them off, and once you make it out, you receive the Romani mask, which lets you into the milk bar and can buy Chateau Romani, which is an applied alcoholic drink that gives you unlimited magic for all 3 days. Once you finish all this, there's still some more optional side quests to do, so I'll talk about these now. This mask is pretty useful later on in the game. It's making you invisible. It's an Icona Valley, and you need a lens of truth to see the man wearing it. In the 3DS copy of the game, they made the stupid decision to move him to where you need it the most, which I think is dumb, since it makes them a lot harder to get to. But once you get it, the whole area is a cakewalk. There are heart pieces all over Termina, many of which are on screen right now. There's about 52 in the game, and it's pretty obvious since there's only 4 dungeons with heart containers. Many are on top of trees, and a lot of them are just in plain sight, and they're pretty hard to miss. So you will end up getting a few before each dungeon. Alright, now this is a real classic side quest in this game. So the toilet hand's a side quest based on a Japanese myth of having a hand reaching out the toilet while you're sitting on it, begging for toilet paper. Apparently this is terrifying to some of these people. If you give him the land title deed or like a letter, he'll give you a piece of heart. It's extremely easy. It's a really easy side quest, and he can be found at 2 a.m. at the Stockpot Inn, the hotel at East Clocktown. Don Jaren Mask is my least favorite side quest in this game. In Snowhead, after you bring back spring, there'll be a frog in a small pond. I hated this side quest so much that I only gathered footage for the end of it, so you're most likely going to be seeing a loop of just them singing. And you can hear the song, I'll play it. But what you need to do is you gotta find all the frogs around Termina, including the 2 mini-bosses in Woodfall and Great Bay, which are the geckos. If you have Don Jaro's mask, you can, which you get by giving a Goron with that hat on, a rock sirloin, which you can find inside like the Goron Hall. But you can start it after this. I think the side quest is stupid, but it does give you a piece of heart. In my opinion, it's best to start it after Great Bay, since Woodfall is easy and the other guys are near those areas. The Gara mask is also required to finish the game. This mask is a reward by the Gorman brothers in a horse race on Milk Road. This part of the game isn't particularly hard, but I failed multiple times, which you're seeing now on screen. I had to redo it a few more times, and it was not enjoyable. This mask is not my favorite to get, clearly. I didn't particularly enjoy this part of the game, but overall it's not that bad, and it did make me learn how to use Epona better, but I never used Epona since I had the Goron mask and Warplans. Now that I talked about some minor side quests in the game, to get a feel like what you're going to be doing when you're not actually doing the main quest, I think it's time to get back onto the actual quests. So after Snowhead, you're tasked with going to Great Bay and, of course, the Great Bay Temple. With the name Great Bay, it seems pretty obvious that you'll be going towards an ocean. Great Bay is home to the Zora race of people. Sadly, issues also plague this region of Termina. The water temperature is far too high, causing many fish to die, and the water being very uninhabitable for many of the Zoras, and the fish who have died. Also, we find out that a Zora woman has lost her eggs due to the pirates plaguing the ocean. These pirates have stolen 4 of her eggs, and she's in a deep, dark depression. When you first enter Great Bay and you see a dead-looking Zora hanging out in the water, you could swim up behind him and push him to shore, and he reveals that his name is Macau. He sings to you actually that his girlfriend / his wife Lulu is a person who's lost her eggs. And he tells you that you need to play this beautiful song, and he just dies. If you play the Song of Healing by him, his soul will be taken to the afterlife, and he'll receive his Zora mask. So he's just out of the picture now. He never really mattered to begin with. There's a few other places at Great Bay when you walk right in, specifically to Spider House, which is the second Spider House in the game. The first one being in Woodfall, which I do not believe I talked about in the Woodfall section. Unlike Ocarina of Time, where there's a massive collectathon throughout the entire game, spanning both child and adult timelines, the Gold Skull to collectathons are isolated in 2 locations. Personally, I do not like these houses. For the first time I ever played them, they were a bit tedious, and if you didn't have the proper stuff, you ain't getting in there. But if you've played Ocarina of Time, which the developers intended you to do, it's pretty easy, and it's a nice break from the action. There's another house in the main area that is home to a fisherman who can give you a seahorse for a price, of course. Now, the price is a photograph of a female pirate, so this guy's already a perv. There's also another perv in Zora Hall, where he's looking through Lulu's keyhole. Yeah, Great Bay has a lot of pervs in it. These people are all nuts. And your girlfriend, Lulu, is not going to be talking to you because of her stolen egg. She's in such a deep, dark depression, she won't even speak. The Zora transformation mask may be my favorite transformation mask in the game. It greatly improves your agility in water. I think the Zora swimming is amazing, and it's a shame that in the 3DS port they kind of removed this. It's still there, but they made the original way cost magic energy, which is unfortunate because when a new player first tries it out, they're going to be like, oh, that uses magic, I ain't doing that. And it's even worse because there's a part in the final boss mask trading sequence crap for the Fair Stadium mask that requires you how to know it properly, and they also changed it to make it harder, which makes no damn sense. Using a Zora mask, you can get into the Pirate's Fortress, and you can get the Stone Mask earlier, and if you get the Stone Mask earlier, you'll be invisible to pirates, making this game part of the game comically easy. In the footage that I'm playing now, you can just watch me walk through the Pirate's Fortress, just killing pirates left and right. In the Pirate's Fortress, you need to find 4 of Lulu's eggs, and with these eggs, you return them to the Marine Lab in the area of Great Bay. Also here you can get the hook shot, which is a pretty good item for the rest of the game. It's also required to enter the Great Bay Temple and some parts of the next temple. To get the rest of Lulu's eggs, you need the seahorse from the fisherman mentioned before. If you take a photograph of one of the pirates, he'll hand over the seahorse for free, and this is the only way you can get it. So if you already know the route, you don't need the seahorse, but it's still pretty helpful, and you can get a free piece of heart out of it. The seahorse is you gotta drop it off Pinnacle Rock, and there's a bunch of eels out there, and these eels are also keeping Lulu's eggs captive. And once you defeated all of them, one of the seahorses will find its mate, and he'll give you a piece of heart, and they'll look around and kiss each other. This part of the game is pretty easy if you have at least 4 bottles, keep all the eggs in. If you don't, well, you're gonna have to make multiple trips and it's not as fun. Once you put all these eggs into the Marine Research Lab in Great Bay, the eggs will line up into a musical staff teaching you the new way Bossa Nova, which will grant you access to the Great Bay Temple. If you go to Lulu on the pier where she's standing and play the song, this big ass turtle will rise out of the water, and you hook shot onto the trees on its back, and he'll take you to the Great Bay Temple. This is the most stuff inside the Great Bay area for now. Once you finish the temple, there's 2 or 3 more things you can do, which I'm going to talk about because it's all super side quest. The Great Bay Temple resembles a water filtration system and/or a regulatory system. The fact that this place is acting up makes sense since the water is murky and it's pretty crappy for the marine life. This temple isn't as infuriating as the water temple from Ocarina of Time, but it's still pretty confusing in some parts nonetheless. My biggest issue with this temple is the stray fairies. There were 2 stray fairies that were really giving me trouble, and the reason was just because I was acting like an idiot trying to get them. There's one stray fairy in the rafters inside this room with 2 hookshot spots in different spots, and I was trying to hookshot from the wrong side for a good 10 minutes until I actually figured out what the hell I was doing wrong. And there's also another one where it's in between a water highway and there's a bubble, so first you gotta pop the bubble and try to get in there perfectly, but I missed it 3 times, so I didn't like that one either. I was also on a time crunch to trying to finish this dungeon because I had to get to work. So if you see me in the footage acting like a maniac as I play, that's why. There's also a lot of parts of this dungeon that you have to freeze water currents to change a water wheel that would change the water current for the whole dungeon. It lets you go into different. It's stupid. This dungeon is, every water dungeon is awful. There's one room with all these seesaws that you gotta. It's just slow. You can walk into the room and already figure out the puzzle. It's just boring. It's great that I got the magic upgrade before I went here, since I could actually use my ice arrows and fire arrows without having to find a bunch of magic pots. The great fairy reward here is that your health's doubled, letting you take twice as much damage. The main boss of this dungeon is this fish named Gyorg. He's a god-awful boss. I had the most trouble trying to fight him. Also, the mini-boss of this dungeon was named Wart. He also gave me a lot of trouble. This is the one spot in the game where I almost died. The gecko boss was also pretty awful. There's also the spider house here, which can get you the adult wallet and a piece of heart, which you need the adult wallet for a mask. With how much you've already played, you should have got the adult's wallet from the bank for giving him 200 rupees, but after this, there's another reward that gives you a piece of heart for only 5,000 rupees, which is awful. The biggest issue of that quest is, before the adults, when you have the adult wallet, it takes a while, and you don't really have time to do that, because the game is on a time crunch. I'm not dedicating a 3-hour playthrough to grinding rupees. That's boring. But once you get the adult's wallet, you can get this, not the adult's wallet, the giant's wallet, and you can get this a lot faster. Because I was actually able to max out my wallet quickly and then donate to the bank without having to travel to Clocktown and other places. The bank also works pretty wildly in this game, and it takes way too long. The Angry Video Game Nerd has also mentioned this in his review, where it should have just been a simple deposit all, withdraw all, or withdraw set amount, or deposit set amount. The bank, you also need to suspend logic for this bank to even work properly. The bank teller at the beginning of the game, when you first meet him, puts a block of ink on you, and this is how he identifies you later on. To me, this makes absolutely no sense, since either way, he wouldn't know who you are at the start of a new three-day cycle, or logically, he'd probably think you forged his ink spot. Clocktown's a massive town, and I had to estimate Clocktown isn't a massive town, so if I had to estimate, there'd probably be about 30 people living in the town. So to me, this process of checking people's borderline stupid. I understand why it's in the game, I just think it's strange how it works. Icona Valley is the fourth and final region within the game, and it consists of the undead, and it's a barren wasteland. You can get here by going east from Clocktown. You also need Epona to get here. There's massive trading quests in this area, which I think is utterly stupid because I'm not the biggest fan of trading quests at this point. You need many items, including like 5 magic beans, like 20 bombs, a bunch of deco nuts, fish, milk, and some more stuff to progress through the mini dungeon here, which is actually 2 mini dungeons. In Icona Valley, there's a single, more traditional looking house with Gibdos walking around it. Excuse me. There's also, sorry, it's actually raining and thundering outside. I don't know if the mic picked that up. We've been getting some crazy. Side note here, just like how you need to make it rain in Icona Valley, we've been getting some pretty wild rain. I mean, I don't think it's raining now, but we've been getting some thunder and lightning. I'm lucky the power isn't going out, and we'll just lose all this recording. But, you know, actually, I don't think you guys can even hear this, because I have it on voice isolation mode, so great. You guys will have no idea what's going on now. Back to the video here. There's this traditional looking house of Gibdos walking around it. There's also a graveyard you can visit where you get a mask, which is required to beat the game. It lets you talk to skeletons and Gibdos. In this area, you find Dampy, who's returning from Ocarina of Time and shares the same name with the other characters. The other character of Ocarina of Time, Dampy. It's the same Dampy. Not a lot of characters have this perk of being the same person in every universe, so I guess he's just doomed. Dampy's always doomed to be called Dampy and be some sucker in a graveyard. You also gotta fight this big skeleton guy. It's not even a fight. You just gotta catch him in the gauntlet of enemies. I mean, all this footage is gonna be on screen now. You can tell, depending on how you can pick up on my voice, you can probably tell that some of these parts are recorded out of order. I'm really getting sidetracked. I mean, there's not much to talk about at Icona Valley. It's a freaking barren wasteland. It's a complete barren wasteland. Like, it's so boring. I mean, it's one of my favorites, but it's really, speaking about it, there's not much to speak about.
But on the first night, if you have, there's these skeletons who are just walking around these graves. You can actually get one of them. You can get them if you're wearing this captain's hat to completely destroy the graves. And if you do it on the first night, it'll lead you to one of the composer brothers who will teach you the Song of Storms. As it implies, the song will make it rain. And in the main village area of Icona Valley, you'll find a dried up creek that leads into a cave. So naturally, if you follow this cave, you'll meet another composer brother who will try to kill you. But then if you play the song, he'll be like, oh my goodness, my brother wrote this and he's dead. Oh no. And then he'll just make it rain, and then the Gibdos will go back down. But there's this sucker girl outside. And so what you get into her house this is a classical Legend of Zelda link right here. You gotta drop a bomb outside the house. She'll come outside to investigate, and that's when you run inside like a little weasel, and you find her weirdo father who's turned into a Gibdo, and you gotta play the Song of Healing and revert back to his normal form. There's also invisible ninjas in this area, which you'll need the Gyara's mask to see, which is also a required mask for the area, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned earlier. If you wear this mask just kind of walking around Icona, there's going to be these ninja suckers named the Garo. He'll give you tips and tricks. This is exactly what I wrote in the script. The Garo can give you tips and tricks around the area. I sound like a complete nerd, don't I? While wearing the mask, they'll just appear kind of at random. They'll surround you from a ring of fire. Like, you know, just... I need to stop, man. I'm getting too distracted. Once you defeat him, the Garo will give you a little bit of information. Every time I played, it was the exact same. Later in the temple, there's a high-ranking Garo, the Garo Master, who will use a bomb to unalive themselves. You know, YouTube demonetization. I'm not even monetized, but I don't want this to get shot down the algorithm. Though I've already said ass and shit like 3 times, so we'll see what happens. Make that 4. Not much is known about the girls. What the hell did I write? Not much is known about the Garos from what we know. They were a leading force against the kingdom of Icona and eventually finished off the entire kingdom. Some theories say they came from Stone Tower Temple itself, with the portal that takes you to the final boss of the dungeon. Personally, I subscribe to that theory, and with that, the portal takes you to a distant part of Hyrule, but it's all speculation. On to the bottom of the well, which is not like Ocarina of Time at all. In this bottom of the well, you go to a trading sequence. I must have wrote a trading sequence, as mentioned earlier, with giving those Gibdos. Sorry, what I did for these parts is I used dictation, but I speak so fast sometimes it's just kind of hard to pick up what I'm saying on. It's like when I write notes in school, I scribble everything, so I go back to study. I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. I ain't passing this test. So it's a trading quest with the Gibdos, and you got to give them stuff like the magic beans, the bombs, the fish, and stuff. But once you eventually slog through all of that, you eventually get the mirror shield, which is kind of like the mirror shield from Ocarina of Time, but you can't change it. So if you don't like the design, you're not going to be able to get it off, which is stupid. See, the mirror shield in Ocarina of Time at least look cool. This one kind of looks ugly. The bottom of the well will also just put you out in the ancient castle of Icona, which isn't hard, but you do need a powder keg to finish this off. So if you didn't realize you needed a powder keg, you go back to Clocktown and get one. You're going to talk to these stupid skeletons who are always bickering, and they'll teach you the Elegy of Emptiness, which is where Ben Drown came from, the goat. Ben Drown the goat. And the Elegy of Emptiness is used for the final dungeon. And just as a side note here, what I do here is I write this all up. No, I still have to talk about Snowhead. So this is like the second to last thing I record. So, you know, you guys don't need to know this, but I'm really breaking the immersion. You can tell which ones I've recorded last, because I'm damn near the end of it. I'm going to move this on now. So, Stone Tower Temple is the last dungeon in this game. I remember it being a lot harder than it was than my most recent playthrough of the game, which you're seeing now. But I believe that can just be summed up to me being better at video games and the graphical and performance improvements within the PC port. The main gimmick of this dungeon is being able to flip the dungeon upside down once you lock the light arrows. Overall, I think this dungeon's pretty good. There's 2 mini bosses within this dungeon. One is the Garo Master, who actually bombs himself. Bomb you, says Daniel Larson. The Garo Master is like Daniel Larson, but if he was talking about himself. And the other is this like Nightmare Before Christmas looking boss whose name's like Gomes. Both of these bosses actually did give me some trouble, because I had no idea how the hell to fight them. But once I figured it out, it's pretty easy.
This dungeon utilizes all 3 of the transformation masks to an extent, and the Elegy of Emptiness to push down pressure plates and other boring stuff. There's not much you can even use that song for. The boss of this dungeon is Twin Mold, and to fight him you're given the Giant's Mask, which is like a fierce deity, light, essentially, because you can only use it in this. Actually, you can only use it in this boss battle, but unlike the 3DS port where they nerfed it and made it crap, this one's actually fun to use. On the 3DS port, they actually made Twin Mold possibly the worst boss in the entire game. So, but in the original, it's a good reward for sitting through all those terrible dungeons. The reward for this area is the Great Fairy Sword. It's pretty good. It's overpowered, and yeah, I'm probably using it on screen. Unlike the other 3 dungeons before this, where you finish it, the area it's in has like massive change to it, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're so much happier, we're so much better." There's literally no change in Icona Valley. It's the exact same, and it's still like some dead piece of crap wasteland. I would be pretty stupid not to mention the infamous and long trading side quest from this game to get like 2 of the last masks. This is the Anju and Cafe quest. This one's world-known famous. In Clocktown, the owner of the stock... I'm going to speedrun it. In Clocktown, the owner of the stockpot inn, who is Anju, is looking for a fiancé who's disappeared. Her fiancé is also the son of the mayor. If you were to go to the mayor's office, talk to the mayor's wife, you can get Cafe's mask on day 1. If you were to get this mask, you're tasked with talking to people around Clocktown to see if they've seen him all day. Just seen him and see if they say the usual. I'm not speedrunning this. They'll say... So, what's going to happen is, if you happen to talk to the mayor's wife on any day in the morning, you're going to get a mask of her missing son. And she tells you to go walk around Clocktown and ask about him. And if you do, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, he's getting married. He's getting married on the day of the carnival." But if you talk to Anju, she's like, "Oh, I know him." And if you were inside the stockpot inn around 2 on the first day, and you can see this interaction between her and the postman, and who will also come and play during the side quest. And Andrew's given a letter from the postman from Cafe. She tells you to meet her inside the kitchen at midnight. And so she'll tell you what's going on and see if you can deliver a letter down, because she's too scared to do it herself. I don't know why. I mean, the mailbox is right outside. I don't know why she can't just walk it over there. God forbid. Maybe the hotel will get robbed or something. I don't know. Now, you have to put it into the mailbox by 9 o'clock. But if you had a keen eye, you may have noticed that there's a man with purple hair, very similar to the Cafe mask, with a Keaton mask on. So if you were to follow him, like on day 1 when you first see him, he goes into the laundry pool and hides behind the curiosity shop. And if you wait, so after this letter, if you wait outside that area till about 3:30 on the second day, you will see him receive the letter, and he'll leave his door unlocked because he's an idiot. And you can go inside and wait inside his house. Once he's in there, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, green hat, green clothes. You must be the one Anju wrote about." Surprised he read that entire letter so quick, but I guess he's pretty quick. And he'll then reveal himself to be Cafe, and he'll also reveal that he was turned into a child by the Skull Kid. And he also gives you dependent memories to go back to Anju. Now, if you also talk to Cafe again, he'll be like, "I'm looking for the thief that stole my sun mask." So you give Cafe the pendant memories, and around like 1 o'clock the next day, if you go back, the owner of the curiosity shop will be like, "Yeah, he's gone. He's running after the thief, Sacron. I think that's the guy's name, and he has a hideout in Icona Valley." Now, if you wait there, you can actually see him enter, and if you're wearing a stone mask, you can just follow right behind him, and he will not care. But you go in and you find the sun mask, and Cafe is so eager and so idiotic, he steps on a pressure plate, which is already like sticking like 10 feet out of the ground, so I don't know how he saw this. After this, you need to do like a little gauntlet of enemies and puzzles to get this mask, and it's extremely easy. But Cafe will eventually get the mask back, and he'll head back to Clocktown. Now, he'll also give you a letter to give to his mother, and there's 2 things you can do now. I mean, you could give it to the postman to deliver it, who's like crying inside his place, or you can give it straight to her. She's in the milk bar. If you give it straight to Cafe's mom, you get a bottle. If you give it to the postman, you get a postman's hat, which is more useful at this point in the game since I see no point to having like 5 bottles. Excuse me. If you go into the staff room of the Stockpot Inn, and there's about 1:30 left on the clock, you'll be able to get the couples mask, and these two will be reunited, and they can die in peace together. I remember this quest being a lot harder than it was on previous playthroughs, probably because now I know exactly what's going on, and I didn't really have to worry. It was actually really easy. It was just long. It was very tedious and long. I mean, it's still a fun quest. I mean, from a stylistic and story point of view, it's pretty sweet, and it reminds you that no matter what you do, you can help everybody. And just because you help these two, that means there's still a lot of people that you couldn't help. Like, for example, Romani's Ranch. I mean, you could, but really you didn't. I know for a fact you didn't. You also can't save, like, anybody else, like any of the 4 other tribes. So, it's just a little reminder that no matter what you do, you can't save everybody. And some people will always have to suffer no matter what you do. Just a nice little reminder from Nintendo. But after all that, I think it's now time to go to the next area, the final zone. So once you've gathered all the remains of the bosses, so now all the giants are free. So now all you have to do for the end game part of this is you got to go back up to the clock.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
Clock tower and meet Skull Kid like you did on the first cycle. But this time you got to play that song that the first giant told you about. And once you do this, all the giants will come out of their homelands, and they'll keep the moon from falling. And then Skull Kid's seemingly defeated, but well, he's not, because the mask, Majora's mask, will fly off him. He'll insult you a few times, and he'll rise straight into the moon after, you know, he'll just rise into the moon. And the only natural thing to do after that is follow him into the moon. Now, if you were expecting the inside of the moon to be like a big rocky moon type thing, like some Star Wars ass type area, it's not. It's a giant, vast green oasis with a big tree. There's a big tree in the middle, and there's also a nice motion blur effect, which I think really adds to the scene. If you go up to the tree, there'll be 5 children in masks running around playing games. It's not said, but it's pretty implied that they're the Happy Mask Salesman. And you can kind of tell because they got the same hair, and they even call you a Happy Mask Salesman. Like, you want to be a mask salesman? Something like that. I mean, you guys have seen this in the footage. You can talk to these kids, and you can trade your masks with them, and you can do their challenge, which is hide and seek, and you go for a little gauntlet of things and obstacles to get to them. And once you beat all them, you don't beat them, you just give your masks to them, and they'll disappear. But at the end of all that, you will be completely out of masks, except for your transformation mask. And each of these kids disappear when you're done dealing with them. There is one child sitting alone under the tree, which is actually the one who's wearing Majora's mask. And if you speak to him with no mask, he'll take pity on you and give you a mask out of pity. Now, this is the Fierce Deity mask, which is completely overpowered, and it's a great reward to beat the game in 3 seconds with this amazing mask. Now that you're inside the final battle chamber in this game, the remains of the temple bosses you fought will fly out of you onto the walls, and Majora's mask will come alive. So there's 3 stages of this boss. Majora's mask is the first, the second being Majora's incarnation, which is like this Michael Jackson type character, and Majora's Wrath, which is supposed to be the hardest part of this battle. Now, if you did get the Fierce Deity mask, this boss battle is a complete joke, and the reason it took me so long was, 1, because I needed to gather footage for this fight, and I wanted to see Majora's incarnation do moonwalking, which I remember happening, but I couldn't get to happen, so I guess it's a Mandela effect. But that's besides the point. The Fierce Deity's mask is really nice. It's just really easy. I mean, it's similar to like how in the Twin Mold battle you can just let loose and the game can wrap itself up pretty quick. After you fight Majora, everything will go back to normal, and you'll meet Skull Kid in Termina Field, and he'll apologize for what happened. Then he'll also mention that you smell very similar to the kid that taught I'm Sorry a song in the woods, which is pretty much a confirmation that this is the same Skull Kid from Ocarina of Time. The Happy Mask Salesman's also here. He's just staring at Majora's mask like some creep, and he mentions, oh, the evil spirits have left the mask, and he'll thank you for what you did, and he'll just walk off in the distance and fade away. And many people try to claim that he's some like spiritual entity because he faded away, but you know, this is pretty common in the Zelda games. Even in Ocarina of Time, Saria fades in. Now I get that she was a sage, but still, I mean, this is the game. The Nintendo 64 wasn't the most powerful system on the planet, so I think it was a limitation on the software there, but it is what it is. But I have no doubt that there was some artistic intention there, or symbolism, whatever. Also, if in the credits, YouTube Shorts taught me this. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but if you have all the masks, and depending on what mask you get, the ending will be different. It will show, if you have like the captain's hat, it will show a clip about the Captain Kita, stuff like that. If you have the bunny hood, it will show you stuff about Grog's chickens growing up. Now, I would like to say I've not actually tested this. I did get this off YouTube Shorts, so don't flip out if I got this wrong. Don't freak out in the comments like, oh my goodness, you piece of shit, you got my favorite video game wrong. Like, come on, fellas. It really doesn't matter. This video game was released 24 years ago. Link also just rides off in a scene. I'm assuming he goes back to Hyrule to become the hero Shade, as in Twilight Princess. But at the very end, it's still a shot of it. At the end, there's a shot of a tree stump with Link and a skull kid etched into it. And I feel like it's a very nice ending to the hero time. What's up, Skibbities? We got some new footage here. This is my redo of the Fierce Deity mask, because I didn't feel like actually finding new footage for this, so I'm just gonna like commentate this. This is live Fierce Deity talk right now. I may just keep this as its own part because it's gonna be long enough. So I'd like to talk about the Fierce Deity mask, because how nice it is. This is the most realist part of this game we're gonna get. This is live reactions. The dogs may be barking. I don't know. Someone's working on like the roof next, like across the street, and the dog's seeing it through the window. They're going crazy. So I'm gonna be talking about the Fierce Deity mask and how much I love it. It's a nice, fun mask. I guess I'll just add this into the footage like as is. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I don't even know if I'll include this. So if you're seeing this, this guy made the cut. So I'm only gonna be showing off the first boss of the Fierce Deity mask. I mean, I also haven't like played much of the Fierce Deity mask. I don't usually use this that much. So. And I can't use the button because this port. So the port added, what button? I just added that to a random button. This is the only issue I have with this entire port. So we're gonna give it to that button. I don't accept. No. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. Okay. What button did I just put this to? Okay, we got it. So here's the Fierce Deity mask. Can I even do spin attacks? No. Okay. Okay, I'm currently getting my ass beat here. And well, I don't know why it's not doing magical beams. I probably need. Oh, okay, there we go. And he's done. This is why the Fierce Deity mask is awesome. And get your stuff done like this, real nice. Hopefully, I can stay inside the boss room with this on, so I can like experiment with this. Okay, so it only does sword beams when you're like that, and there's no nice spin attack. The spin attack's kind of slow. I mean, the sword's nice, double helix. I mean. Can I pick up bombs with this? I can still pick up bombs. I don't think I can use... Yeah, every single item's blocked out. I mean, do I have an ocarina? No, I don't. So, I guess I'll just... That's really all I can say about the Fierce. It's a nice mask. This is like the nice endgame mask. I mean, the design is nice. Let's be real here. Can I, like, zoom in on myself? Can I put away? Can I put my sword away? No, I can't put it away. So, as you see here, it's just the model of Adult Link with, like, some cool runic stuff on it. I mean... He's nice. He's a cool looking guy. I mean, I'm really going on a whim here. This is very unscripted, as you can tell. I do like, this is actually, what I'm doing now is you cannot do this in the original. Mr. Wise Guy actually added this to the game. This, what I'm doing right now, we're using the other analog stick. It's very nice. It also kind of has a glide. If you do it for a while, it has like, it keeps like, if you do it, sometimes it keeps like a little glide to it. I don't even know. It's nice. I mean, here's the block. I don't think you can even get down, but there's a mask. I mean, nothing beats this mask though, so that's all I can really say about this part. And I guess this is gonna go into the footage like as is, so hope you guys enjoy that part. So my final thoughts on the game is, you know, I really do like this game. and it really, in my opinion, it extends how great Ocarina of Time was, but it's also amazing as a standalone, despite this game being made on such tight circumstances and a lot of time crunches. It still holds up very well, even about 24 years later, and it's surprisingly still extremely good. And there's a lot of ease of play now to PC port, and even if you have the Nintendo Switch, or Switch Online, however they do it now, with their virtual console. I don't got a Switch, so I don't know how it works. I did hear the emulation kind of sucks, but that was 3 years ago, and I heard it's a lot better now. So if you want to play that way, play it any way you want. If you want to do 3DS way, do it that way. But you've heard everything. This game's amazing. I would definitely check it out if I were you. The 3DS port's the biggest turd ever graced this game, and it's an awful port overall. I'm not going to go much into it, but YouTuber Narrel has made an amazing video highlighting why this port sucks. I'm gonna link it in the description because this video is probably already pretty long, and I've been writing for like a day now, so I'll link down in the description, and I'll put the thumbnail on screen since it's so iconic. But what it did is it just took out all the stuff that made it unique, and it crapped all over what made this game cool to begin with. I mean, if you just want to play it for the lore or something, or like clout, I don't know, you could play it for that way. But the PC port's also free, so, and it's better. But if you really just want to know about it, just read Hyrule Story or something, I don't know. Don't play this shitty ass port. Sorry for my language. I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of mad about this port. It kind of sucks. It's a real letdown, it's a real disappointment. But I'll link the video from Narrow. I mean, he'll do a lot better job at talking about it than I will. That's the best way I can put it. All right, so what you're hearing right now is I'm at the tail end of editing this video. I'm in between segmenting it all up and then putting it together for Final Cut. So currently I'm on this would be audio segment 21.4 maybe. So I guess I forgot to record it after a bit. I mean, it's given now. I'll probably forget something. I mean, I forget shit all the time. But I would like to say thank you for sitting through this entire video. This has taken probably like almost a month now. Whenever the PC port was released, add 4 days into June 10th. That's how many days it was. But I mean, sorry, I'm not feeling too good. I had a good time making this video. I'm probably going to do Mario 64 next. I did do a community post, which I knew would get no votes, so I will be doing Mario 64 next. So I'm itching my leg right now. It's just something I do when I start talking. But, I mean, I'd like to thank you guys for sitting through this entire video. If you liked it, subscribe. I mean, I probably pump one of these out per month. I'm really just doing this for fun. I kind of enjoy doing this, sitting down, playing some games from my childhood and talking about them or something. That's about it. Like the video, comment or something, get this in the algorithm, I guess, I don't know. And I will see you guys next month when I do Mario 64.